I'm going to call to order the zoning board meeting for November 10th, 2020. Tonight's board members is our regular board of 5 members: Stephen Bernard, Fire Chief Michael Williams, Craig Pina, Stephen Lianis, and myself, Kenneth Galligan, who is the chair. Our zoning enforcement officer, our building superintendent and clerk of the board, James Pluff, and our recording secretary, Beth Lacombe. I am going to read a paragraph relative to virtual meetings. In accordance with the governor's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, general law, chapter 30A and 20, relating to the 2020 novel coronavirus outbreak emergency, tonight's public meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals will be open to the public. However, the public and all applicants are encouraged to participate remotely. I would ask anyone that is participating in tonight's hearing before the board to shut off any electronic devices that you may have so that it doesn't become a distraction to the board. Before we start the meeting tonight, is there anyone in attendance tonight that wishes to withdraw prior to the start of tonight's hearing?
Mr. Chair, I do not see any hands raised.
So nobody is withdrawing yet. Well, we have 2 withdrawals that I will read in just a minute. The format for the hearing tonight will be 11 cases that we have before us. I will call the case. The petitioner will come before the board and make a presentation requesting either variance or a special permit. When the petitioner has finished their presentation, I will then ask the board if there are any questions of the petitioner. Following that, I will open it up for public discussion. At that point, anyone that wants to speak in favor of the petition will be welcome to do that. Following that, I will ask if there is anybody in opposition. After that, I will ask if there are any public employees, elected officials that want to speak on the issue. Following that, I will close that public hearing portion of the hearing, and I will then open it up for the board for deliberation. The board members will deliberate on the facts that have been presented to the board. And at the end of deliberations, we will take a vote on the petition. In order for a petition to be successful, 5 affirmative votes is an affirmative vote for the petition. A vote of 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative is an affirmative vote for the petition. However, a 3-2 vote does not carry and the petition will not be granted. So in order to be successful, you need 4 or 5 votes of the board. Following the decision of the board, I will make an announcement as to the decision of the board, whether it's granted or it is denied. We have 2 cases before us tonight that have been withdrawn prior to tonight's hearing, and accordingly, they will not be heard this evening. They may be heard at a future date, and they will be re-advertised if they do come back for another hearing. So the cases that are withdrawn is petition number 20-84, the petition of Paul E. Clancy Jr. Esquire, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton, Mass. For a variance from section 2729 to combine plots 114 and 114-2, thereby creating 3 separate lots to build 3 two-family homes in a C2 zone located at 370 North Montello Street. That case has been withdrawn. The second case is petition number 20-85, the petition of Paul E. Clancy Jr. Esquire, 71 Legion Parkway, Brockton, Mass. For a variance from section 2729 to combine plots 114 and 114-2, creating 3 separate lots to build 3 two-family homes in a C2 zone located at 380 North Montello Street. That case has been withdrawn and it will not be heard tonight. The first order of business tonight is a request for a 6-month extension relative to case number 19-81. This is the petition of Jason Patterson in care of attorney Robert R. Pellegrini Jr., 63 Main Street, Suite 1, Bridgewater, Mass, for a variance from section 27-28 and 27-10 to redevelop the existing property into 15 residential units, adding a 3rd floor and 20 parking spaces total, and to exceed the maximum building height by 9 inches for a total height of 35 feet 9 inches. This is all located in a C zone located at 30 Intervale Street. So the request before the board is for a 6-month extension. Any questions from the board? Any comments from the board members?
I'm just surprised that with everything going on, I'm surprised we haven't seen more requests for extensions.
I would entertain a motion then to grant them a 6-month extension.
Motion to grant a 6-month extension.
I second that motion.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant a 6-month extension. All those in favor will read, the secretary will read the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's a 5 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative.
Petition request for 6-month extension has been approved, 5-0. The next order of business is petition number 20-75, the petition of Monica Favero, 259 Ames Street, Brockton, Mass, for a variance to add a second means of egress, a stairway, from the 2nd floor common area, which requires a stairway to encroach on the side yard setback in an R2 zone located at 259 Ames Street. Is the petitioner ready?
Good evening, Jose.
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I was having hard trouble with my microphone. So, good evening, everyone. My name is Jose Guzman. I am.
Yes, please identify yourself, clear.
My name is Jose Guzman. I am the architect working on this project.
All right, hold on just 1 minute. Your voice is very low, and could you spell your name, please?
Jose. My last name is Guzman.
Okay, got it. Very good. Thank you. Okay, do your presentation.
Sure. What we have here is this structure is a pre-existing non-conforming condition as it relates to side yard and front yard setbacks. And the 2nd floor of the structure does not have a second means of egress. So we are asking for a variance on a side yard setback so that we can have a second means of egress from a common area, in this case, a kitchen. The side yard, currently the face of building is to the property line is 9.4 feet. And adding a second means of egress will reduce it further. The stair itself is 4.0 feet wide. So from the stairway, face of stairway to the property line will now be 5.4 feet. There really isn't any other way to add a second means of egress for this unit other than to encroach on the side yard. And do you have any questions?
So the interior layout of the house requires this stairway to be in this particular location.
Correct. I don't know if you have the drawings in front of you. We did submit drawings.
I have them.
I thought perhaps they would be on the Zoom meeting as part of the presentation. But basically, it's the layout has the kitchen at the center of the building with flanked by 4 bedrooms on the second floor. So it's not ideal to have a second means of egress coming out of bedrooms. So the only locations where we can put a second means of egress is either the kitchen on the side yard or the dining living area on the front. But if you put it in the front, it'll be right adjacent to the existing stairway. So there is no remoteness if we put them next to each other.
Is this second floor currently occupied as a separate apartment?
Monica?
No, it is not.
So you're developing a 2-family out of this building?
When I purchased the home, it was sold to me as a legal 2-family. And then I realized that there's no second means of egress, so I didn't put a tenant up there just due to safety and my understanding of having 2 means of egress.
Okay, very good. So your hardship, you have to show a hardship on this, and the hardship is that there's no other location that you can place the stairway.
That is correct.
Okay. All right, are you through with your presentation?
Yes, I am. Monica, would you like to add anything else?
No, not at this moment.
Okay, I'll close that portion of the hearing. Any comments from the board? Any questions of the petitioner?
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Guzman, on the ground level, what is to the right between the property line and the stairway? What is on the ground? Is it pavement? Is it green space?
Yes, it's green space.
Say that again, please.
It's green space.
Green space. Okay. We'll stipulate that it remains green space.
Yes, that is the intent.
I have a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'm only seeing on the plans, the floor plan for the second floor. Is the floor plan for the first floor the same?
Yes, it is for the most part the same, with the exception, obviously, of the stairway and the entryway, the common entryway. But yes, it's the same layout.
So is the door to the outside on the first floor in the kitchen, is that going to come out to under the landing of these stairs?
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
If you see the kitchen door on the second floor opens up onto a landing at the
Yes.
top of the stairs,
Correct.
on the first floor level, does that same kitchen door open up out under?
There is no kitchen
There is.
door there. We're making a new door in that location to.
The stairs aren't going to affect that first floor kitchen door?
No.
No. Oh, there is no first floor kitchen door. Was that your question?
Yeah, well, my original question was, is the layout of the first floor the same as the second floor?
Yes, but the entrance to the first floor is towards the front of the house, opposite end.
All right, I got it. Thank you.
The area to the right of that proposed stairway that's close to the property line, that other side of that property line is a large open area. There is no building right up against it. All right, any other questions from the board? Everybody's good? I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
No one's hand is raised.
Nobody here speaking in favor. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
There are no hands risen.
Seeing no one in opposition, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on the issue?
There are no hands risen.
Okay, there are no public officials that have come forward to speak. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm now going to open up for deliberations from the board. Board members?
Mr. Chair, with, as long as the ground level between the property line and the stairway remains green space, I would move to grant.
With that stipulation that that area remains green space.
That's correct.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant the variance with the stipulation that the green space remains between the new stairway and the property line. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Bernard,
Yes, favor.
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that it's a 5-0 in the affirmative.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Do I continue to stay on the Zoom now, or I'm not sure what I do
You can
now?
go.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Yep, good luck. The next petition, 20-76, the petition of Nelson A. Monteiro, 12 Kimberly Drive, Northeastern Mass, for a variance to convert a single-family home into a two-family home in an R1C zone located at 16 Albert Avenue.
Are you ready for the presentation?
Yes, please identify yourself to the clerk.
My name is Nelson Montero, and I'm here to seek a variance to convert my single-family house into a two-family dwelling. And I'm seeking relief from section 27-25, number 1. As you can see in the drawings you have before you, this house has a very odd shape, which makes it difficult to make improvements in the middle and back part of the house. If you look at the certified plot plan, you'll see that we have ample parking for two-family. There is an existing two-family directly across from my house. And there are two multifamily at the end of the street. And many of the homes on my abutters list are multifamily homes. I am sandwiched between Center Street and Court Street, which is a community of multifamily homes. I have also included many letters from my neighbors that support this conversion. Thank you, and I'd be more than happy to answer any questions that you have.
Mr. Montero, would you state again what your hardship is?
Mr. Montero. Okay.
Yes, the hardship is it's a very odd shape. For example, if you look in the middle part towards the back, there's like a slab there. And I was able to upgrade the heating system for the front part of the house, which was easy. However, it's very difficult for towards the back of the house. I have a heat pump there that's on its last leg, for example. And you have to put a brand new heating system just for that section of the house alone.
Thank you.
And if you look at the middle part of the house, that needs upgrading the roof, and towards back part of the house needs a brand new roof too. And right now, to be honest with you, the way it looks is an eyesore for the community as well.
Thank you.
Question I have is the house that you are proposing to construct will actually be 3 stories high. Is that correct?
Yes, almost like 2.5, more like about 2.5 stories.
Right, the grade shows that the house will be 39 feet high. And the maximum you can go is 35 feet.
We can make accommodations.
Okay. With all of the bedrooms that you show in this dwelling, I'm counting 12 bedrooms
Okay.
on the build out. Is that correct?
I don't recall having 12, maybe 10.
Well, you got two up in the new addition up on the top floor.
Well, the top floor is a game, well, it's gonna be a game room. There's
Okay.
two rooms in the top is gonna be a game room, not a bedroom. And those will not have closets.
The parcel that this building sits on has a grass area to the right. Is that all part of the same parcel that the house sits on, or are there two separate lots there?
They're two separate lots.
Is that a grandfathered lot on the right-hand side?
Yes, it is.
So that lot could be built on at some future date then?
At some future date, I own both lots. At some future date, it may.
Okay, thank you.
But you have plenty of room in the back.
What do you say when you say there's plenty of room in the back?
So there's like a huge pool that goes from one end of the property almost to the other end of the property. And you have, I think, over 40 feet setback from the existing line, from the existing property right now towards the other property, over 40 feet.
Okay, so you show no parking plan at all on these drawings.
I believe that I believe the plot plan that I submitted do have ample parking for the two-family
Get
house.
there. Hold on, let me see that. Yep, you're correct. There is one here. So you're showing parking on the additional grandfathered lot to the right.
Yes, well, a little piece of it, but if necessary, I could, there's plenty of room towards the back that I could move the parking even further back.
Okay, so if that lot was built on, this parking would be lost.
Not necessarily, because if you look at it, there's only perhaps a very small piece that would be combined.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the board?
I just want to reiterate the question from the chair. The chair said he counted 12 bedrooms. You say 10. I actually counted 11. So why so many bedrooms? And the bonus rooms, to me, can act like bedrooms. And whether you or a future owner was to prevent this from becoming some illegal rooming house, because it's just so many bedrooms in here. It's unbelievable to me.
I believe the current plan is for 5 bedrooms. And if you're going from, if that's an issue, if the number of bedrooms is an issue, I could always cut back on that. But the intention of the bonus room is for a gaming room, so families can really have a place where they can really enjoy themselves.
Okay, are there any other questions from board members? One, two, three, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10. Okay, I counted 11 bedrooms also, plus the 2 rooms up on the top floor, which could be 13 bedrooms.
I maybe there's some type of confusion there. However, I don't have any problem of eliminating some of those bedrooms if that's a concern to the board.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? What is good?
When you talk about eliminating bedrooms, eliminating or changing them to what? To family rooms?
I would be changing them, maybe perhaps make the rooms larger.
I see.
So perhaps instead of having a bedroom that's 12 by 12, I could have a bedroom that's larger than 12 by 12. So may perhaps,
Mhm.
perhaps,
I share the concern of there being that many bedrooms, and would like to see the number of bedrooms reduced to
I,
4.
I could do that. That's not a problem.
I just want to caution everybody that what we're voting on tonight is what is actually before the board, not what may come at a future date.
Well, could there be a stipulation? And also, I think the current plan that you have it allows me to go 9 feet for the setback, and I could just build on the existing. That would eliminate the number of bedrooms if that's a concern.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from the board? Okay, we're going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
So just let you know, you have some letters in front of you from my neighbors.
A number of letters in support of the variance has been submitted to the board. And it appears as though these are people that live in the immediate area of this location on Albert Avenue, all in support. Anybody on the screen that's in support?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, there's nobody on the screen in support. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
No one on the screen, Chair.
Nobody appearing in opposition. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official that wants to be heard on this issue? None?
No, not Chair.
Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and now I'm going to open it up for deliberations from the board. Board members, any comments?
Because of the fact we're voting on what we have in front of us, I'm not comfortable approving this until we see some updated designs, to be perfectly honest.
Well, the concern that I have is to go from a single-family house to a multifamily house where there is a conflict here between 10 and 11 bedrooms. This is much, much larger than anything that's in that neighborhood down there. When you consider that lot next door could be developed, you would now have a very large two-story home with possibly 11 bedrooms sitting on that small lot. And the other concern, height that is legally allowed, he would have to ask for variance from that height. I think it's a very large expansion of a single-family house in a very congested neighborhood on a relatively small lot.
Mr. Chair, you were breaking up
You're done.
most of the time.
Yeah,
I couldn't hear.
You're done.
half
I'm
the
sorry,
thing that you
sir. That portion of the hearing is closed. This is strictly for the board members.
He's right, Mr. Chair, that your most of your presentation was not audible. Most of your
It was
comments.
not,
were
all right, why wasn't it?
It was.
All right, I'll say it again. My concern is this is a very large expansion of a single-family house on a relatively small lot. The height exceeds what is allowed, and he has not asked for a variance from the height. To go from a single-family house to a house that's going to have possibly as many as 11 bedrooms is a very large expansion of a use that is in a very congested neighborhood. And the possibility of developing the other lot, which is a grandfathered lot, would certainly negatively affect the development of this lot. Right now, when I went down there and looked, it looked to me as though both lots were used pretty much in common for parking and whatever. But if that other lot can be developed, it's going to further exacerbate the parking situation on this existing one. That was my comment.
Great, thank you very much.
Any other comments from the board?
Motion to approve in hopes it does not prevail.
Somebody want to second that?
Second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve with the hopes that it does not prevail. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Lanus,
No.
Mr. Bernard,
No,
Mr. Pina,
No.
Chief Williams,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0-5.
The vote is 5 in the negative, none in the positive. The petition is denied. The next petition, 20-77, the petition of Jarrison Barros, 70 Bank Street, Brockton, Mass, to subdivide an existing lot into 2 lots and to construct a new single-family home in an R1C zone located at 70 Bank Street.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. I'm going to be representing Mr. Barros in regards to his petition.
Okay, please identify yourself to the board.
Chris Vale, along with me, I have Greg Logan, who is the engineer on the project from Bluestone Construction. As well on Zoom is our client, Jarrison Barros, the owner of 70 Bank Street.
Okay, you can begin your presentation.
Thank you. This is a petition to the Zoning Board of Appeals seeking a variance to divide an existing lot in order to construct one single-family house in the city of Brockton on a new lot. The applicant is seeking a variance, seeking relief from the lot's frontage, minimum lot area, front and rear yard setback requirements, with the desire to construct this single-family 4-bedroom home. Some particular facts about plot 158 is that it is located at 70 Bank Street. Mr. Barros wants to create a new lot, which on the plan is shown as proposed lot B, to construct a one single family house on this new lot, which would contain 6,500 square feet. Lot A would contain another 6,500 square feet where the existing multifamily house does exist. Plot 158 is in an R1C zone, and Mr. Barros has grown up in the city and currently resides at 70 Bank Street at the multifamily with his wife, children, and parents, on which he has lived there since 2011. However, his parents are getting older, and his plan is to keep his family all together. He wants to move his parents onto the first floor of the multifamily where he currently lives, and then his sister to move in on the second floor of the multifamily that would help him provide health care to his parents. Unfortunately, the house has become too small for the entire family to live comfortably, so his intention is to build a new single-family house for his wife and children. Historically, while looking at this plot, the new proposed Lot B was formerly a standalone lot, formerly known as Plot 159, and somehow was merged with Plot 158. I did go to the assessor's office today, and I did pull through old folders to try to find out when and why this was merged, in which I was unable to do so, figure out the reasons to it. But it does show that Plot 159 did formerly exist as a standalone lot and at some point was merged together. However, these two lots would be consistent with the other lots in the neighborhood by being similar in size and having similar frontage. In fact, if you look at the plan, 2 out of the 3 lots, or potentially 3 lots directly on the other side of the locus are in fact smaller in size and frontage. The 2 lots would also have ample green space and parking for his family. If you can see on the plan, there is an existing shed as well as a concrete pad that will be removed, in which it will add more green space and yard. In regards to Mr. Barros's hardships, as previously stated, he does want to continue to raise and take care of his family in Brockton. He wants to be able to take care of his elderly parents who do need to move to the first floor, and wants to make his property comfortable for his family to continue to live at. In addition, when buying the property, it was marketed to him that his land was merged, but it was possible for him to seek a variance in order to develop the historical plot 159. Lastly, which I did provide today, I dropped off a hard copy. Mr. Barros has asked his neighbors before even starting the process of filing for a variance petition, in which he was met with enormous support. I told him in order to do everyone a favor and not have the whole community come out and speak in favor of it, I did draft a petition for him to go and have people sign, in which there are 8 signatures. I don't know if you have that, Chairman.
Do you have it? Hold on, I don't have it in front of me. We're checking to see if it's in the file. When did you submit it?
I dropped it off this afternoon.
At the building department?
Yes.
We
You
do
did
have
see
it,
it?
but it wasn't submitted with the file.
Okay, let me see. Yes, we have it. $17, $30, $35, $77, $80, $64, $69. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 neighbors that were in favor. We have that.
Thank you. So to end, based on all these factors, the fact that Mr. Barros does want to continue to live in his property, he is asking the board to grant relief from the ordinances in order to allow him to create this single new family residence.
Okay, you finished your presentation?
I have. If there's any questions, particularly with the plans, the engineer is here, or if I can answer any, please ask.
Any questions from the board? All right, just a couple of comments here. First of all, this particular location was before the board in January of 2011. It was unanimously denied by the board. And at the time, the planning board denied coming back to the zoning board. So on the application, it says, has any previous appeal to the zoning board been made? It's checked no, but in fact, there is back in 2011. So they couldn't do anything for at least 2 years. So here they are back well outside the 2 years. You also realize that if this lot is subdivided, then the original house becomes non-conforming on the new created lot. So really, there should be a variance asked for both locations here. And the other plan that I was quite surprised at, and it took me a while to garner what it was the plan that was submitted with the package. I finally discovered it was similar in 2008. So this is not an actual plan for this location. It's an 8.5 by 11 single piece of paper, and it's dated 6/9/08.
No, that plan was added to, Mr. Chairman, my name is Greg Logan with Bluestone Properties. That plan was added for a property for a similar location on the same street, sir. That is not the plan for Mr. Jarrison Barrows.
That's correct. I just want the board members to realize that that plan is not the one for this location. Correct.
Yes, I just wanted to add it to the record that it was there to show that it was done on the same street down the road a little ways on a similar situation, like as you stated in 2011.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the board? If there's no questions, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor? No one appearing to be in favor other than the list that was submitted today to the building department. We're going to close that portion of the hearing, and is there now anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Okay, nobody appearing on the screen in opposition. Is there any public officials that want to be heard on the issue? Okay, there is nobody appearing from public officials. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I will now open it up for discussion from the board. Board members.
Do we know? Oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve.
A comment that the two lots do not derogate from the size and shapes of the lots in the neighborhood. Just a comment that it would be orderly as far as the size and shape are concerned.
Okay, so originally this is one lot that's a 130-foot frontage and 100-foot depth. And I believe recently they did create this Lot B. However, it has not gone before planning. So really all it is a lot that's been created. It's unbuildable, and obviously that's why they're here tonight.
Mr. Chairman, I did go in front of planning board. I'm sorry, my name is Greg Logan with
I've closed that portion of the hearing.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman.
Yep.
My question would be on a technicality. If we are creating a second non-conforming lot with the existing house, can we make a decision on that tonight, or do we need to have everything redrafted and come back to us?
I would think that we're going to need two separate applications here. One is making a existing lot smaller in addition to requesting to create the Lot B. We're going to be faced with this more and more, that if a house sits oddly on a lot and the lot is subdivided, now they're making the original house sitting on a much smaller lot. And now it is not in conformance with current zoning. And there is a letter here from the planning board, September 2nd, 2020, discussed the preliminary subdivision plan. The board voted to allow the plan to proceed to file for necessary relief for the zoning board. You should have a copy of this letter. You have this letter?
Yep.
Everybody has that? So what they did is they allowed him to move forward to us. So he has to go through planning to start with and get to us. So he has been to planning, and then they have referred it to us. This is no way to be considered an approval of the planning board. If relief is granted by the ZBA, the applicant must move forward to the definitive application stage. So what's before us tonight is to allow the subdivision of this lot into two lots. Any other comments from board members? I saw no mention here of a hardship that relates to the property. The information that was given to us is relative to how the family wants to live on the property, but relative to the hardship relating to soil conditions and things of that nature, there was no mention of any of that.
I think both your comments, Mr. Chair, are valid.
Is it appropriate to continue this until they submit the application for a variance for the other lot as well? Rather than deny them and have them have to go through the process again, can we, I'm just asking if we can't continue it.
I would recommend that we do not. So if this is denied, then he would come back with 2 new applications, one for this location and one for the existing house.
Okay.
Any other comments from the board?
In light of the comments that the chair has made, and I think they're quite valid, I would with hopes that it fails.
I could not hear you, Steve. What was it?
A motion to grant with the hopes that it does not pass.
Okay. Is that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
Somebody want to second that motion?
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant in the hopes that it does not prevail. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
No.
Mr. Bernard,
No.
Mr. Pina,
No.
Chief Williams,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Chairman, that's 0 to 5 in the negative.
Okay, the petition is denied on a vote of no votes in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You should have.
The next petition, 20-78, the petition of Daniel Pino, 57 Nilsson Street, Brockton, Mass, to erect a garage 21.5 feet wide and 30 feet deep by 30 feet high for storage that does not meet the 10-foot setbacks in an R3 zone located at 57 Nilsson Street. Anyone here for this petition? I'm going to give him about another 30 seconds. So you can take this back. Okay, okay, apparently nobody has come forward to represent this petition. I would entertain a vote of the board to delay this petition until the end of the evening to see if somebody does appear for this petition. Would somebody, I'll open that up for comment. What do you want to do with this?
Yeah, I see no problem with continuing it.
Till the end of the evening?
Yes, motion to continue till the end of the evening?
Somebody want to second that?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to delay the hearing until the end of this evening's meeting. Mr. Clerk?
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that's a 5-0 in the affirmative to delay until the end of the meeting.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative to delay this case till the end of the evening. The next petition, 20-79, the petition of Elevation Incorporated, 68 Hubbardton Avenue, Brockton, Mass. For a special permit from Article 3, Section 2724, subsection 4, for permission to operate a marijuana establishment for retail sale in a C3 zone located at 156-160 Main Street.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Should I proceed?
Please identify yourself to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jim Valeriani. I'm an attorney with the Mensing Group in Boston, representing Elevation Inc. With principal offices in Brockton. The company is owned by Victor Texera and Jose Andrade, who are here on this Zoom meeting with me. In addition,
All right, could you just spell your last name?
Oh, yes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's V as in Victor, A-L-E-R-I-A-N-I. James Valeriani. Please feel free to call me Jim.
Okay, very good. You can proceed with your presentation.
Thank you, and good evening to the board members and city staff. In addition to the applicant, Elevation Inc., Jose and Victor, we have Jerome Dixon of Architect Studio One in Stoughton, who prepared our architectural plans and floor layouts for a marijuana retail establishment that we are pursuing at this location. This establishment is allowed by special permit from this Board of Appeals in the C3 Central Business Zone, subject to a number of requirements particular to this zone that aren't particular to some of the other commercial zones in which retail establishments are allowed. The one of importance is that we must be located on the second floor according to your ordinance, which we are. The retail shop fronts East Elm on the side of the building, which turns into VFW Parkway, I believe, as it turns the brick streetway. In addition, we need to be under 5,000 square feet in total area for the shop, and we are well below that, less than half, with 2,269 square feet. The building was built in 1933. It's a very fantastic Art Deco style building. We'll be making no changes to the facade of the building, no changes to utilities which run underground to the building. There are adequate electrical, water, natural gas, I believe, for the use of the building, and we'll be making use of all those. The building is partially occupied. It is struggling like many of the properties along Main Street. The retail shops on the street level, I believe, have been vacant for some time. So we're eager, and the property owner, Paul Protentis, who has owned the property for over 20 years now, I believe, is eager to have a successful outcome and bring some income and some users to his building. In addition to this special permit, as the ZBA knows, we'll need to get the site plan review, which we will be filing for in December. We have filed for tech review, which precedes that process, and that will be on November 30th. So there's nothing that prevents us from running these hearings simultaneously, which is what we're seeking to do. And it's typical ZBA comes first with special permit, as that's most important, followed by the site plan. If there are any significant changes during the site plan, we would need to come back to the ZBA to modify the decision or seek a de minimis approval for those changes, but we don't anticipate any. In terms of the site plan, the building takes up the entire lot. There's really no site plan to speak of. The site plan that we've prepared for the planning board does show there are no schools or other retail establishments within 500 feet of this location at 156-162 Main Street. We represented that in our application to the ZBA. We do now have that site plan if you'd care to see it, but it does really not show anything more than Architect Studio One's plans that we did submit to the ZBA in October for this hearing. It's a 4-page plan sheet that we've provided to the ZBA with elevations, locus plan, boundary plan. We have sheet A10 first floor plans. We have a sheet A11 second floor plans where the retail shop is. And finally, we have a sheet SB10, the fourth plan, H10, the plan that shows the fire controls, pull alarms, emergency lighting, ingress and egress, as well as the HVA system with upgraded carbon filtration, exhausting to the roof. And we've had an engineer that specializes in odor control review and indicate that that is sufficient for this use. There is no odor from retail. It's all packaged goods, but we are required to provide that. In your C3 zone, off-street parking is not required. The vast majority of properties along Main Street in that area don't appear to have parking. However, with that said, there is ample public parking nearby. The Brockton Parking Authority garage is just a block down at Crescent. That would be for the employees for long-term use. There is the Brockton Authority's parking across from City's Hall down School Street that's available for short-term use. We would imagine our customers may park there if not on Main Street. And finally, there's I believe it's a privately owned lot over at School in Maine that allows for metered spaces, and that could be made use of as well. So although no parking is available nor required, ample parking is at the desire of any customers and for the employees. Now, we indicate in our application that we'll have approximately 6 employees. That would include 2 security guards. Now, that's approximate. On a busier time, we may have an additional employee or 2, bringing that total to 8. The total number of employees for the company would be approximately 12 on their payroll. They are seeking, as they are desired to do, to hire from the Brockton area. That will be a goal of theirs. Under the host community agreement, generous contributions, we believe, are certainly there's a social impact fee that's required, but donations as well. So this is an exciting project, not just for the applicant, for the property owner. It has 2 means of ingress and egress, a stairwell on Main Street and an elevator at grade on the side of the building. And that is handicap accessible, so the building is ADA compliant. There would be a security guard posted at the first floor side entrance where the elevator is. There's also a rear stairwell there, checking IDs and being there for security purposes in general. When they arrive, customers to the 2nd floor, there's another security guard that would check IDs before they enter, and that security guard would ensure that there's not too many customers inside of the retail shop. They would enter a port area where their customers' IDs would be checked, and then they would be allowed to enter one at a time so that there is not a significant number of customers in the shop. All product will be stored behind the cashier counter and in storage room and locked facilities as required. We do have significant security monitoring with the cameras and the lighting systems in place. We were able to obtain from Captain LaFrance at the police department a review of our security plan, and he had sent me an email on October 26th. I do have that in my possession if you'd like to see it, in which he indicates his review of the application, and it appears to be in compliance with the police department's requirements and the Cannabis Control Commission. But under the requirements of the CCC and city and town HCAs, that is open to change if the police department so desires. If they feel there's a need for further security or different types of monitoring or perhaps an appointment only procedure during busier times. We don't anticipate that. The marijuana business and industry has been around for several years, but we believe this is a good location downtown. We do not see any traffic impacts here because we're not creating any new spaces. We anticipate customers to park in the public lots as they do as they're doing business downtown otherwise, or to just patronize this shop. It's a short distance. We do know that during the winter time, there is some parking bans that are put into place for snow removal. So those nearby lots in the parking garage are sufficient. Again, I mentioned there are no public schools between K through 12. That's a requirement of the Cannabis Control Commission as well as your ordinance. We can think of no nuisance being created. Again, with a retail shop, all the product is sealed. There'll be essentially no expiration of product. So there'll be no need for destruction of any product on site. If there is, it will be done in a locked room inside the retail facility. And the product, if it is expired, will be destroyed with the witnessing of 2 employees on a monitor camera and mixed with an organic compound for removal. That will be rare, and it would be something that would occur, waste removal for that product, perhaps once every 3 months, we would imagine. Otherwise, our waste would be cardboard boxes, plastic wrapping, typical office waste for food for the employees, and the bathrooms. There are common bathrooms in the common areas of the building. And the waste removal would take place along with that waste removal from the retail would take place along with the other waste removal for the other tenants of the building. We did, the property owner, with this pandemic losing tenants, we were able to arrange for the property owner to bring all of his taxes up to date prior to this hearing, which is a requirement. We did not seek a payment plan that would be allowable under the delinquent tax ordinance that you have. We wanted to show the applicant and the property owner very desirous of this moving forward. I'm happy to go through all of the requirements of the special permit, but they are typical. The findings are typical of general special permit requirements. We will need to do an emergency response plan and a solid waste removal plan. That would be with the fire department and public health. We have submitted proactively to them prior to tech review. And Deputy Chief Williams has indicated he has received that. Now, their approvals, fire in particular, isn't required until prior to the issuance of a certificate of use and occupancy. So it's a lengthy permitting process. We need this ZBA special permit, which we kindly request this evening, unless questions require any type of continuance that we can address that were unforeseen by us tonight. Site plan review, tech review, city council issuance of a license, and a 2-step license process with the Cannabis Control Commission. A provisional license that we can't get till we get our local approvals. And then after we go into construction and get our certificates of use and occupancy, there would be a final license after final inspection by the CCC. So these processes can take 18 months, and they're very expensive at the Cannabis Control Commission level and for the applicants to bring in all of the engineering, architectural, legal resources that are needed to get this through what is a very strict and elaborate permitting process with the city of Brockton. Now, I know a number of these have been before this board, and many have been successful. Because of the pandemic, because of the large expense with permitting these facilities and getting them built out and obtaining financing and capital, some of those shops may not make it to fruition. So we certainly believe that there is a capacity for an additional location. Marijuana licenses by the city council, 25% of them are reserved for the C3 district, and we are in that district, the Central Business Zone district. I don't believe that the odor control system with carbon filtration is going to be installed with an exhaust to the roof. And again, we've had an odor control specialist with an engineering license review and approve that. But again, with the retail packaging in plastic, there'll be no odor there. I've been in these shops before, and there is no odor. Many shops just simply use an air purifier system that's plugged in the location. of the retail premises. But here we are upgrading the HVAC system for the carbon filtration, which would be more than sufficient. We can think of no impact to transportation or parking, given the ample parking nearby, and given that the customer base will be primarily, we think, residents of the city of Brockton and surrounding towns as they're passing through the area. I know the board has implemented operating hours of 8 to 8. We would seek that flexibility, but we don't believe ultimately we'll be opening at 8 a.m. or closing at 8 p.m. We do need to, because the building has no off-site parking, we would need the ability to coordinate deliveries, which would occur perhaps once a month on Main Street. And those deliveries would take place either up the stairwell in Main Street, locking the door behind with security present and a nondescript vehicle, or quickly moving the product along the side to the elevator, depending on how much is being delivered. But there's no prohibition with the cannabis control regulations, even if we chose to have that security team and the delivery service park in the garage and transport it over by foot or some other sort of a small transportation device like a dolly or something. But we don't anticipate that being a need. We do know we can time randomly and within security concerns deliveries early in the morning, weekends, when there are no cars parked on Main Street. And that is how the other retail shops have had their product delivered as well. Again, the vast majority of properties in that C3 district do not have loading docks or on-street parking. So we're in no better or worse shape than any of them if those were alternatives. But we think this is a central location, high visibility, a wonderful building. Art Deco would really like to, get in there, get the retail shop operating, and hope that'll attract additional customers and tenants to Portentis Plaza, owned by Plaza Realty Trust, Paul Portentis and Barbara Duffy, long-term owners of that building. I can, this is a very, I would say with the other applications that have gone through the process and with other nearby communities, there would not be a significant number of patrons there at any one given time. And again, we can work with the police to set up an appointment only arrangement if that does occur. We are subject constantly to police review. We would have to work with them if they so desired, if they felt there was any need to beyond what they've already approved. So what I would like to do is, if I may, I'd like to see if our architect, Jerome Dixon, who put together a very nice set of plans, would like to speak to anything. It's a well-designed layout. I do want to point out that our security plans have been made to the police department. They customarily remain confidential and out of public view so as to preserve the integrity of the security system. Cameras are visible, but we would not want alarm boxes and code boxes and safe areas made open to the public. So that is the typical course of action. And at the tech review meeting in late November, we will take that same approach. And I've already coordinated with the planning department that they will keep that documentation separate just for tech review, and then it will be destroyed and not made public. And that is the way it should be. And the police department would prefer that approach as well. So that is why you do not have the two security plans in front of you. You do have a copy of my narrative to Captain LaFrance. And as I said, in October, after our filing, he did provide his review and approval to me, which I can share with this board this evening, or it certainly is required prior to final licensing throughout this lengthy process. So with that said, if Jerome, if you have anything you'd like to add about your design, I think it's fantastic. And I don't know where to go first and then answer questions of the board. Do you have anything perhaps that I missed?
No, you covered everything well. If we want to walk through the plan, I'm able to do that. If I'm allowed to share the screen, I can actually pull that plan up on the monitor here.
I'd like to see that. I think it's a fantastic set of plans and it would really give a good
Yeah,
sense.
the host has to authorize it, so I don't have the ability to do it until the host
Okay.
acknowledges.
Go ahead and try, Jerome.
Okay.
I would suggest to you, Jerome, that we do have your plans that are in front of us.
Yes, and this is
So
identical.
if you can just move along on them so that
All right.
I'm
we
in
don't
the
get
middle of
bogged.
meetings here, so, yeah, I know. Go to
Are you able to see the set now in front of you on screen?
this other one. Hold on a second.
Does everyone see it?
A negative.
Not yet.
Negative.
16th.
Well, the board does have the color 11 by 17s. We submitted the sufficient
Okay.
number.
16th. And the 18th. Okay.
Is
Very
it
good.
visible now on screen?
Yes.
Okay, good. So everyone may be very familiar with the building. It's not far from City Hall. And it's a classic Art Deco. And I think this will be a big improvement to it. As I move into the floor plans, there are two primary access points to the upper floor, one in each corner of the building. The intent is that the main entrance is actually down here off of the Parkway. Main Street is to the left in your view. So this is our access point. The other side is strictly a safe egress. So it's there primarily for egress purposes and is not intended to be an access point. As we get up to the second floor, again, you'll see the elevator in the lower right corner and the stairs are at that end of the building. Within the space, the customers arrive near the elevator. There's an entry door and they come into a waiting area, which is a complete secured waiting area. The security office oversees anyone that's in that space and they have glass in the wall so they can see on all three sides. And people are allowed in once they're identified as appropriate to be there. The main store is just basically an open space with the point of sale cash registers at a counter. Everyone gets individual attention. And the other parts of the space are not public access. So beyond this wall here, you see the hallway. There's a break room for employees. The administrative office gets the corner office. There's daily storage. So dealing with product is completely within a secured room. There's more storage space behind that. And the high security prefab safe will rest totally to the rear. So to get to that, you've got to go through multiple points of access. So it's been secured nicely. And then in an emergency, the employees and staff are able to exit the rear of their space and take off back to the stair at the other side of the building. So it is straightforward. And as Jim mentioned, there are existing toilet rooms, existing elevators. So the building's already compliant with ADA. We have no toilet rooms planned within this demised area. So they leave the space to go use the restrooms and they're common to everyone in the building. If there are any questions, I can answer that.
Do you want to show?
Are you pretty much finished with your presentation?
Well,
yes.
perhaps, Jerome, do you want to show the final plan, just showing the exhaust, how it goes up to the roof? It won't be affecting the exterior of the building.
Correct.
It's shown just for depiction purposes, but.
Yes, our mechanical engineer, Noop Basari, has reviewed all the requirements. And when we do these, the big difference is that rule that was put in there for the design with the treated exhaust is intended for agricultural growth, where you actually have off gases. You do have plant material and airborne. This is completely sealed up. So our system is basically a closed system, with the exception that it does provide some limited exhaust. It does get filtered within the system before it leaves the building. And we're going to exhaust through an old window panel through a transom point at the outside of the building. That's up pretty high off of the sidewalk. Our fresh air intake is similar. We're going to be drawing fresh air either directly above or through another point on the wall. But it does not share any air with the neighboring tenants in the building. It's completely closed circuit. And that completes the 4 sheets that we put together for this.
Okay, and I'd like to ask if our applicants are clients Jose Andrade and Victor Texera, who is a local resident and business owner. They are both in real estate development and have other businesses that they successfully operate. Gentlemen, do you have anything you'd like to mention at this point in time? Anything I may have missed?
No, this is Victor Texera from Brockton. And, I do like to mention that it took us a while to get here because we actually was following the rules of what the city council was demanding for the downtown area. They want a 2nd floor level dispensary. All the design looks great for me, and I hope we get granted.
Very good. Yes, it's a good location, and it's tough to find 2nd floor space in that area. So that was successful. Very good.
That completes your presentation?
We certainly want to entertain any questions or comments from the board, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Correct. I'm going to open it up now to the board. Are there any questions from board members?
You expect deliveries to be only once a month? Is that what I heard?
Yeah, well, we're not sure yet. It would certainly depend on how well we do, but yeah, I would. It could be twice a month, but we would certainly do it at random times with the ability to do it early in the morning, late in the day, perhaps on weekends, to ensure we have close parking and that there are not a lot of pedestrians and citizens in the area. And we can certainly coordinate that with the police department, but it would move quickly up the elevator and into the secured areas of the retail premises. There is no requirement under the CCC regulations that deliveries take place in-house or with on-site parking. So just like any other retail use or office use that has anything delivered to this building, we would follow the same procedure, but with higher security and in a quicker fashion.
Regarding deliveries, as part of our city ordinance, the deliveries have to be to a secured area. I don't think the city council had any intention of delivering marijuana to these locations from the street or from a public parking garage. Every petitioner that we've had before us has had a secured area where the product could be unloaded from the vehicle and go directly into the building without traversing any public spaces. So I just want you to know that our ordinance does require that.
Okay, I did not notice that, Mr. Chairman. In your ordinance, I'll have to go back and review. If that is made a condition, we would have to seek some off-site location. But again, with the C3 district being on the 2nd floor.
Thank you.
And on-site parking not being a requirement, it's a pre-existing non-conforming building. There are no docks available to us for deliveries.
Okay, I just want to make sure that you understand that part of the provisions.
We will comply with that condition or that requirement of the chairman. Yes.
Is there somebody else here? All right, board members, any other questions? To the petitioner, I don't know if you realize it or not, but on VFW Parkway, there is no parking allowed on either side of the street.
We are aware of that, Mr. Chairman.
You're aware of that?
Yes.
All right. I'm a little disappointed that if you had a correspondence that came from Captain LaFrance about the reviewing of the security plan, and he approved the plan, I'm disappointed that we don't have that before us. What we're hearing from you is that you got an email, but.
Yes, I can share that. It came after
Well,
our submission.
Let me just finish. In other cases, we have actually had a plan that has been submitted. And in some cases, we've actually had a petitioner who has had the security company come before us and actually testify before the board. So just be aware that even though you may have submitted it to the police department, the board doesn't know what the status is of that.
Would you like me to share the screen to show his email approval that he provided to me, Mr. Chairman?
Well, I would much rather, if you had it as long as you did, I wish it had been submitted to the board prior to this.
I will submit
Also,
in the morning.
The context map, we did not get supplied with a context map that shows a 1,000-foot periphery from this location and a 500-foot periphery for the school, education, and other locations that may be dealing with this cannabis. That was not part of our package.
Yes, that has recently, that came afterward for planning board. We thought that level of detail was required for planning board. We were relying on the locus plan and the street plan that was shown on the front page of our architectural drawings and our representations, that there were no schools or other retail establishments, which there are not within that 500-foot radius. And that has been confirmed since with North Country's site plan, which is up in front of us now. And I do appreciate that being shown, as you can see.
Well, what we would have is the attestation that goes with that document that an engineer who drew that circumference of 1,000 feet and 500 feet testifies to the board with his signature on the document that there are no schools and no other cannabis locations within that 500-foot radius.
Okay, we could continue in if you deem necessary to provide that or have that as a condition. The stamp plans signed and stamped and dated by the engineer do show the radius, but I'm not trying to be evasive, but we felt that it was sufficient, as you can see it being shown now. And if you'd like to.
Did you say that there was parking available at Main and School Street that was metered parking?
Yeah, I believe that's what we show, I think, on the next page of our site plan. If we show who's, I don't know who's working that site plan. Whoever,
I am.
Appreciate it. Jerome, on I think the next sheet shows a previous sheet shows the nearest parking area that I believe is privately owned, but metered spacing. So back one more, I believe. Let's see, no, that's okay. Yeah, the next one, back one more. No, I'm sorry, go forward again, one at a time. Oh, right here. Yes, this is it. We show over here, we show the parking on Main Street that's available to the public, 7 spaces in front of the building, additional spaces on the other side of Main. And then we just show that nearest parking lot for convenience. That is metered spacing. I believe it's privately owned. But we do know that there is on the other side of School Street, the parking authority's large parking area for short term, and just down the block, the long-term parking at the garage. So we have sufficient parking, and for convenience purposes, we showed this lot at the corner of School and Main.
All right, well, I just want to reaffirm the fact that it is my opinion on the knowledge of that corner that that is private property. It is not open to the public and it is not metered. So unless something's happened very recently, that lot is not open to the public.
Well, we'll go back and check that, but we would rely on the public parking that is still within close proximity, a 5-minute walk less than that at the garage and the School Street lots. But thank you for pointing that out. We will double check that, Mr. Chairman. And
Also, there is a requirement that no exhaust units can be attached to the outside of the building. You cannot go through a window and you cannot obscure a window. Are you aware of that? It sounds like you're planning on 2 ducts going up the outside of the building, one
Yeah.
for air intake and one for air going out.
well, we can modify that through an existing chaseway. Being in the Art Deco building, we don't want to impact the exterior, take away from the architectural attractiveness of the building. And we are aware of that. It was my understanding that exhaust showing on the outside was just for depiction purposes. So we will go back and modify that. We have a great deal of flexibility with the building. Jerome, would you agree with that?
I agree, and there's no equipment proposed to be on the outside. We have a number of mechanical louvers on that side of the building related to the main building, but we have the option of researching and finding another place up and out through the roof if necessary.
Okay, another question that I have is this cannabis location is going to be up on the 2nd floor. When I visited this site and walked through it, it appears as though there are existing offices that are going to be on the front and the north side of this building. So those buildings those offices that are on your plans, outside of the yellow color, those offices have nothing to do with your operation. Is that correct?
Correct.
So when you close at 8 o'clock at night, those other existing offices could be occupied. There could be people in the building when your facility is closed.
I believe that would be the case, yes. But we would be fully secured. But for somebody working late, if they have the unfortunate need to, that would be the case. But given our operations from 8 to 8, potentially, we think we may be the first ones in and last ones out. And we can work with further with police on additional security and taking that into consideration, and the building owner.
Okay, very good. Any other questions from the board members? Anybody? If not, I'm going to open up for public comment. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
Anybody's hands in favor?
Okay, we have no one that has come forward to speak in favor. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in opposition?
There is at least one person who wants to speak in opposition.
We have a person who wants to speak.
Oops.
Jerome, could you take the shared screen down just temporarily, please?
AJ, you can please unmute.
Forgive me.
We have somebody on the screen.
We do have someone on the screen. He is having trouble unmuting, but he did give some information. Until he gets on, I will read what he said. This is Anthony Jameson. His business is at 124 Main Street. He states there is no loading dock, no off-street parking, and not good to use the one elevator in the building. No business elevator. They should have a security plan approval from police, loading dock, and private elevator. There's a retail location opening at 1 Main Street. The parking at Main Street and school is privately owned, not metered, private rented. And then this is
Is he able to speak now?
AJ, just click on unmute in the middle. He's unable to.
He what?
He doesn't seem to be able to.
Okay. Can we reiterate what his comments were? Can the petitioner hear that? Is the petitioner there?
Yes, I am, Mr. Chairman. Forgive me. Yes, we did hear those comments. Those are topics that we did address in our presentation, and we believe we satisfied the comments that were.
Okay, for some reason, he's unable to unmute, but we did get his comments. Are we through with him?
Yes.
Okay, no other members of the public that want to speak in opposition?
None are noted.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official who wants to be heard on this issue?
None have made themselves known.
Okay, no public officials have come forward to speak on the issue. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and I'm going to open it up now for discussion by the board. Board members.
Mr. Chair, this proposal, it kind of fits everything that we wanted on the planning board when we suggested the ordinance for second floor locations. Given the fact that, I mean, there are no parking requirements for downtown businesses, I don't think that's too much of an issue.
No, and I agree that they have addressed that with several locations for parking, other than the misinformation, I think, at Main and School Street. But on-street parking and the garage parking that they talked about definitely does exist. Any other board members? All right, just a couple of things now. There is no parking that's allowed on VFW Parkway on either side of the street. The main entrance to this location up on the second floor, they're telling us is going to be the doorway that's on VFW Parkway. I was there and did an inspection of that, and when you step in the door, there is an elevator to the right, and there is a stairway immediately in front of you that goes upstairs. The city records indicate that that elevator is a freight elevator. In a conversation with the Department of Public Safety in Boston and the elevator division, I was informed that that elevator is a passenger elevator, and the elevator is out of service. It was taken out of service in 2015, and it has no certification and it has no inspection. When I was in the elevator, it appears as though the elevator has not been used for quite some time. So right now, without that elevator, this facility is not ADA compliant. I would have hoped that we would have seen something relative to that elevator to show the board that, in fact, if a person in a wheelchair would ever want to go up on the second floor, that they have access to get there. And with the ADA requirements, that has to be shown. And right now, from what I see over there, there's no way that anybody that's impaired can get up to the second floor. I have no idea what the situation is with that elevator. It was taken out of service, and it's been out of service for over 5 years, and it has no inspection. I looked today, there is no inspection certificate, and the elevator inspection division in Boston says that it has not been inspected and is not certified. I was disappointed that there was no context map that was presented to the board that was signed under penalties, indicating that there is no schools in the area 500 feet, as we have done with all the others. and also 500 feet for any of the other marijuana locations. A waste plan, I think I heard him mention that waste was going to be discarded with other waste from other tenants in the building. I don't know if that is what he meant to talk about, but a waste plan has to be secured and has to be approved by the Board of Health. So really, I guess the Board of Health is the one that's going to regulate that. The other one that really concerns me is the lack of a secure loading zone. In all of these that we have approved, we have been very specific about where this marijuana was going to come in and go out of the building. And it has to be secure. It has to be basically out of sight, so as to speak, where a vehicle can immediately discharge the marijuana contents right directly into the building. You can't carry it down the street. And I certainly wouldn't think that it would be okay to unload marijuana on the street and carry it into the building. So I have a real problem without that secure loading zone. The signage, we didn't mention anything about the signage, but in their presentation, they said there'd be a small sign at the door on Main Street and apparently another small sign on the side street on VFW Parkway. So anyway, the hours of operation, as we have discussed in all of the other locations, is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. They cannot open before 8 a.m. and they cannot remain open after 8 p.m. The laws that we have for Brockton relative to these was specific about ventilation shafts being on the outside of the building. They originally showed one, they talked about two, and then they changed their mind and said they would figure out how to do it on the inside. I have several issues that I think are very important that need to be addressed on this issue. And with the plans that have been presented tonight, I am not in a position to approve this. I think if they come up with a better plan or address some of the issues that they heard before the board tonight, they may come back with a much better plan. But truly, the secure loading zone has got to be addressed, and that issue with the ADA compliant elevator, I'm not in a position to grant anything unless that elevator is operational, it's been inspected, and it has a certificate. That's my thoughts. Any other thoughts from any other board members?
Wouldn't the repairing the elevator and the build out wouldn't that be included in the build out in order to get an occupancy certificate for a retail establishment? I think that would be part of their build out anyway. So I don't know how the elevator affects our decision tonight. Other than that, the secure loading zone, yes. There may be better ways, maybe an additional door and back where they can pull a truck up and back, where that might actually work out better. Other than that, I don't know if anyone else has any comments.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
There is no back to the building. No, this portion, it's closed.
Okay. I just want to know.
Well, when we talk about the elevator may not really be the responsibility of the petitioner. It may be the responsibility of the owner of the property. So what I'm saying is, if the petitioner wants to open up a marijuana shop upstairs and it has to be accessible ADA compliant, it may be that the owner of the building is the one who is going to have to make sure that elevator works. And I don't want to sit here and put all kinds of stipulations on this, that somebody got to do this and somebody's got to do that. Our job is to make sure that the location for this is in a proper location and it conforms with the basic rules and regulations relative to selling marijuana. And then beyond us, it gets very specific. And as the petition has mentioned, there's several other hurdles that they got to go through. And I guess our job is to make sure that this is an appropriate location. I don't have a problem with it being downtown on the second floor. That's what the city has asked for. I just think that there's some extenuating circumstances with this particular location that have got to get addressed before I'm going to vote for it. So, any other board member, please speak up if you have anything you want to say.
I agree that, you know, we're basically determining the location and that it conforms with what we want as a city. And I think they've done that tonight.
Anyone else? Okay, in the past, we have put a stipulation that this operation will be in full compliance with the rules and regulations and ordinances of the city of Brockton. And we reinforce the hours of operation shall be no earlier than 8 a.m. and no later than 8 p.m. All right, if there's no other questions or comments from the board members, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to grant?
Second.
Motion has been made and granted with the stipulations that they shall be in conformance with all rules and regulations and the hours of operations. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. I would ask the clerk to call the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that is a 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative.
The vote is 4 in the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The petition is granted.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
Mr. Pino, for the end of the meeting is going to be here. Is on mine now.
Well, for the one we skipped?
That's correct.
Okay, let him know that we will hear him at the end of the evening. Okay, good. All right, the next petition is 20-80, the petition of Nature's Embrace Incorporated, 221 Oak Street, Post Office Box 148, Brockton, Mass, for a special permit from Section 2724, subsection 4B, to amend the previous special permit to include all of its property within the authorized use as a result of the rear of the applicant's property being rezoned commercial in a C2 zone located at 747 Center Street. Do we have the petitioner?
Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Patrick Sullivan. I'm an attorney in Attleboro. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. With us tonight is Joe Feeney. He is the principal of the applicant, Nature's Embrace. We also have the property owner, Chirag Patel, with us. And we have Eric Diaz, who has been the engineer on the project. The application before your board is an amendment to a special permit that was already granted by this board for a retail marijuana in the commercial zoning district. I believe you probably recall the petition since it was just this past year. The rear of the property was previously zoned residential, which does not allow retail marijuana use by special permit, by variance, or otherwise. It's just not allowed. A portion of this area of the city of Brockton, including the rear of our lot, has since that time been rezoned into the C2 commercial zoning district, which does allow the retail marijuana use of, or does allow retail marijuana establishments. Again, we have already received the special permit for the use itself in the building. What we're looking to do is amend the special permit to now include the rear of the property, which is an already existing parking lot that had previously served this site for its previous functions. And so the engineer is here, the applicant and the property owner are here as well. We believe that this would allow better site functionality. We think it's better for the neighborhood, for access and egress. And again, the parking lot is already existing there and we've received the special permit. So we're really just trying to do the two of them together.
Where's the last decision?
Was that directed to me?
No, it's to our secretary. Do you have the last decision from the last case?
If I could comment, I did include a copy of the original decision in the application package as well.
Got it. Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead with your presentation.
So concluding on my end, and I think the engineer will probably take it next, and talk about the site itself. But again, we did receive the special permit for the use here, and the parking lot is already existing. The issue was it was not zoned in the C2 zoning district, which is now since changed. That is Eric, do you want to give an overview of the site itself?
Yes, I can do that. For the record, Eric Dias, registered professional engineer with Strong Point Engineering Solutions. I trust that you all have the plan in front of you, but if it's easy and I can share my screen, that might be the easiest way to walk through this. Yep. Can everybody see the plan in front of them now?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. So you're all familiar with this site, I trust, if not from the past petition. This is the old Webster Bank building. If you recall on the past petition, as Patrick said, the rear of the parking was zoned as residential, so we weren't able to use it. So what we actually proposed was to draw basically a line right across where my mouse is moving here, where you see the magnifying glass, and construct a fence there to basically isolate this portion of the parking lot that was in the residential zone from the remainder of the site. It would have left this curb cut open and functional to us, but it would have closed this curb cut. So now the plan, moving to the proposed conditions plan, what you see at the top of the sheet here is essentially what was approved before. The entrance on Center Street becomes an entrance only. There is no exit onto Center Street. We had some limitations in the prior plan that was approved where entrance from Quincy Street would only be able to come in and take a right to come up to the parking facility in the front. And if you wanted to get back out of the facility, you'd have to come all the way around the building and back out onto Quincy Street through this curb cut. Now that this rear parking area is available to us, we've been able to kind of improve our traffic patterns through the site. We don't have to put those same limitations for one way when you come into the site on here. We're not proposing any changes to the rear parking area of the site. It is compliant with what the town requires, both overall for parking and for landscape requirements within the zone. The only thing that we are going to do per our prior approval, we've proposed a dumpster enclosure closer to the building where it can be more secure. So the existing dumpster enclosure that's in the rear in this parking space back here is going to go away. We're going to open that back up for a standard parking stall and increase the parking on the site in the rear by 1. The other thing to note with regard to parking is our previous approval had, I believe it was 14 parking spaces in the front here, which only required us to have 1 handicap stall where there are currently 2. We were actually going to eliminate 1. Now that we have all of our parking hopefully available to us, it pushes us over the 25 mark, which requires us to have both handicap stalls. So we have plenty of room. We're going to put those in there and just restripe that area to improve.
Aside from that, those are the finer points of the site plan itself. I'd be glad to answer any specific questions that the board may have.
There was a couple of requirements that were part of the original granting, and I am of the opinion these are the ones that you want to get relief on. One is in consideration of the unique circumstances regarding the parcel A, adjacent paved parking lot in the same ownership with the south property line, a 6-foot fence shall be erected between the above referenced paved lot and the C2 zone lot 1 of the retail marijuana facility. So what you're proposing tonight is that 6-foot fence is no longer needed.
That's correct. That 6-foot fence would have run right about where you see my cursor, where I just drew this line. In order to combine this into one parking spot, obviously that would be an obstacle for us. So we'd like to eliminate that requirement.
Okay, and the whole specific reason for that was the back part of that was zoned residential, and the city council has since rezoned several areas on that east side. And this is one of the parcels where they have rezoned that residential now to commercial.
That is correct.
Exactly.
All right. So additionally, the access driveway to the paved parcel A lot located in the R1C zone shall be closed to prevent the above referenced paved lot from being used as parking for or any access to the retail marijuana facility property located on lot 1 as described in site plans submitted at the hearing dated 8/19/19. So that driveway there that you're showing was going to be closed as part of the original decision.
That is correct.
So tonight, are you asking to reopen that lot, that driveway?
Yes, sir, we are.
Okay. So the plans that we are referencing in the decision would be plans that were dated 9/28/20. Is that what you're seeing?
Let me just pull that up. Last revised 9/28/20. That is correct, sir.
Okay, so if this is granted, the relief will be granted based upon the new set of plans submitted to the board and dated 9/28/20.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right, so basically, it's a special permit adjustment. The night that we granted this, we discovered that that back lot was residential. It is now commercial, and you are now asking to use the entire parcel. And you're going to relocate the dumpster. And what are you going to tell us about lighting on this property?
Lighting on the property, we have no immediate plans to revise the lighting on the property. I think the lighting in general for the property around the building will fall under our security plan. So the site will obviously be required to be well lit based on that security plan. We have not gone as far as doing new photometric calculations for the lighting in the rear. It should be noted, however, our next step after we leave here, provided that we're successful, would be to go back for a site plan modification with the planning board. And lighting may very well fall into their purview as well. So we may need to address photometrics in the rear portion of the parking lot at that time.
Okay, I will just say as a comment to you in this portion of the hearing that this board has not looked favorably on wall packs that are mounted to the side of the building, lighting up the entire neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
We have kind of embraced downward lighting. My only thought that I would suggest to you is that even though you have lighting around the building, now that this parking lot has been expanded, you'd want to be very careful about what goes on in that back parking lot after hours.
Yes, sir.
So something to consider. All right. Any other questions from board members?
Hello, can you hear me? Sorry. This is Chirag Patel. I'm the property owner of 747 Center Street, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
And just to comment on what you had to say about the lighting. So there is a pole on the rear left corner of the property, all the way in the back where the existing dumpster pad used to be. So that's going to be part of this parking lot expansion should it be granted tonight. is to address that because that is one of the site improvements I am going to be making for my tenant. So that will be addressed, and we will make sure it's either fixed or if not, address it during the planning board meeting.
Well, zoning likes to have the light confined to the property and not spilling over into the entire neighborhood. So whatever you do for lighting, just kind of keep that in mind.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, any other questions from the board members?
No.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
Oh, wait, no citizen has risen and do have one public.
Okay. So no interested public wants to speak in favor. Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition? Okay, seeing no one to speak in opposition, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'll open it up now to any public officials that want to comment on this petition.
Councilor Thompson is online.
Councilor Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. I think we're all up to speed on the previous zoning map issues regarding this property. After investigating this issue, it was found that the R2 zone line encroached about 100 feet onto the C2 zone from North Quincy Street all the way to the old Grossmont Plaza on Center Street. The city council saw fit to correct this issue to allow all the businesses along Center Street to have full use of their property, including this property at the corner of Quincy Street and Center Street. And so we made a correction to the zoning map, and we support this petitioner being able to have full use of their property. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the zoning board.
Thank you, Councilor. Any other public official want to speak on the issue? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing and we're going to open it up for discussion by the board. Board members.
I've got to be, I think this is probably the 6th time I've seen this before various boards. And I know they wouldn't be back here if it wasn't beneficial, and because I know they probably don't ever want to see us again, but I think this solves a lot of problems. Maintaining a vacant lot that no one has access to, they don't have to worry about it anymore, and it'll keep the neighborhood cleaner and more well lit and safe. I have no problem with this at all.
I think there was a comment the night we granted this that vacant lot could become a problem. So this is going to solve that by opening up. The only thing I would hope that the petitioners would do is on that south property line, the fence that separates them from the entranceway that goes into the abandoned drugstore there. I would hope they'd clean that area up, and if that's their fence, it would be great if they could kind of make it more presentable than corner. Any other comments by the board? So basically what we're going to do is adjust the original special permit that was granted by removing the requirement for the fence and the closing of the back driveway. And I will reiterate the downward lighting, and I'm going to reference this plan that was dated 9/28/20.
Motion to grant?
That's stipulation.
Steve, did you second it?
I second it with your stipulation.
Okay, good. So a motion has been made and seconded with those stipulations. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus. Yes. Mr. Bernard.
Yes.
Mr. Pina.
Yes.
Chief Williams.
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, that is a 5-0 in the affirmative.
Okay, the vote is 5 in the affirmative, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members
Thank
of the
you all.
board.
Thank you all for your time.
Mr. Clerk, I'm going to give that back to you. That goes in the original file from the other one. All right, the next petition is 20-81, the petition of Abdul B. Kumba, 338 West Elm Street, Brockton, Mass. For a variance to convert current garage into a 3-bedroom apartment in an R1C zone located at 338 West Elm Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, our board and everyone here.
Yes, please identify yourself for the clerk.
My name is Abu Kumba. I'm seeking a variance to convert a grandfather structure, which was later converted into a garage for a 3-bedroom apartment. And purpose of reason is I have my mother and my auntie and a family member who is autistic. Unfortunately, my current structure doesn't have a first floor living condition. And with the current arthritis and muscle issue with my parents, I would love to have them stay with me, closer to me to take care of them, and also my artistic family in the new structure. The structure already had, from the photo I gave to you, already had pre-existing heater, plumbing, everything in it. It was just converted by the previous owner to a garage for their own personal use. And I do have enough ample of space for parking. There's 2 entrance and egress from both sides of the plot, one from West Elm Street, the other from Bryan Ave. So parking and driving will be ease for future residents. And I'm hoping that I can get this variance for my family. Thank you. Is there any other question? I'll be willing to answer, please.
Okay. You all through with your presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Questions from the board? Board have any questions for the petitioner? So currently, this is a garage that services your main house, correct?
Can I answer? Well, it's not being used right now, sir.
But it was built to be the garage that would service your main house.
No, it was built as a butler's servant suite, sir, and later converted into a garage, sir. It's a grandfather.
It was like a servant's quarters?
Yes, sir. I did provide some photos of water system, heating system, and the different rooms that was there, sir.
Yeah, we have that. And you are aware that city ordinance prohibits 2 occupied dwellings to be located on the same plot?
I'm
That's
aware that.
specifically what you're.
Sorry, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, 2719 says there should be only 1 principal structure per lot. So now there would be 2 principal structures.
So there is my neighbors. There are 2 neighbors that have apartments within the same vicinity on both sides of my property. They are apartments, sir, who have multiple dwelling on one plot, sir.
Yes, you could have apartments if it's zoned for apartments, but what I'm saying is what is not allowed is 2 separate buildings, both living structures on the same piece of property. That's what the ordinance says. That's that 2719. So you're asking for relief from that in order to create another occupied dwelling on the same plot that your main house is on.
Correct, sir.
Okay, any questions from the board to the petitioner?
I just had one question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Kumba.
Yes, sir.
In the drawing, I see you still have 2 garage doors. Is that just for aesthetics? There's no vehicles, no vehicles we parked in this building, right?
None, sir. none will be parked in there. And if you look at the plan, sir, it will show that that's going to be sealed, closed with windows there, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So you're proposing living space on the first floor and second floor?
Yes, sir. There's going to be a 2-bed on the first floor and one in the attic, wherein my autistic sister will be living, and my mom, who has work impairment, who's in therapy right now, will be on the bottom floor, sir.
Okay, very good, thank you. Any other questions from the board? If none, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
One is raising their hands. Sure.
Okay, seeing no one speaking in favor, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
I have one person who's raising their hand. Tony. Tony, can you please give your name and address?
Tony Assarat, 57 Elm. My question is this going to be held to just family members, or could they rent it out afterwards?
We have no control of that. What's your address?
Then I would be opposed to it. 57 Elm.
Elm Avenue?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else here that wants to speak in opposition?
See no other answers.
Okay, if there's no one else in opposition, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official who wants to speak on the issue?
See none.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for discussion by the board. Board members.
To me, this sounds awfully familiar to the case we had on Prospect Street a few months ago. And because of the fact that there can't be any two principal dwellings on one property, I think we denied that one as well.
About 10 years ago, we had one directly across Byron Avenue. The house is a large house that faces on West Elm Street, and they had a barn in the backyard. And they proposed to do the same thing, and that was denied also. So. Any other board members going to make a comment? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Although I sympathize with the petitioner's family situation, but the fact of, number one, we have no control over whether it's rented out as a 3-bedroom apartment in the future. I'm going to make a motion to approve in hopes that it does not prevail.
Okay, I'll second that.
Motion has been made and seconded. Somebody want to second that?
I'll second it.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve with the hopes that it's not prevail. We have it. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus. No. Mr. Bernard.
No.
Mr. Pina.
No.
Chief Williams.
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that is 0 in the positive and 5 in the negative.
Thank you. God bless.
The vote of the board is none in the positive, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied. The next petition is 20-82, the petition of Peter Harrison, care of McCluskey, 1325 Belmont Street, Brockton, Mass. For a variance from Article 4, Section 2729, to allow residential use in a C2 zone, and Article 3, Section 27.9, relief from parking for permission to construct a 24-unit apartment building in a C2 zone located at 1208 Montello Street.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. You ready for me?
We are ready whenever you want to go.
Attorney John McCluskey representing Peter Harrison. With me this evening is Peter. I don't see him on the screen yet. Also Scott Faria from JK Holmgren Engineering. Scott and I and Peter have been working on this project for a couple of years now. The history here is that Peter Harrison purchased this property back in 2015 and was working diligently on recreating and building a new multifamily home when an arsonist took over and burned the property down. The arsonist, I believe, is in or maybe not in jail anymore, but hopefully is. The property then was razed and has become a vacant lot for several years. Back in early 2020, Mr. Harrison came before the board through Scott and I and himself, proposing a 32 unit apartment building. The reason for this location, by the way, it's in a C2 zone. So in a C2 zone, obviously that's a commercial use. However, in this area, and historically, it's not really an area that's conducive to C2 uses, at least in much of the area. There is, of course, Mr. Lynch, who has a commercial property right next door, but the board last year did approve a multi-apartment building for him, which is adjacent to this property. So the board denied a 32-unit facility apartment building, and part and parcel of that was the issue of the parking, which the board found to be inadequate. There was a sort of a piggyback parking situation in the first floor. The overall design of the building hasn't changed, other than we now have 3 floors of living space as opposed to 4. We still have parking on the first floor, but we're proposing 24 units as opposed to 32 units. And the 24 units will be accompanied by 24 parking spaces plus some delivery space on Montello Street. This is, I think, a good layout in the sense that these units are residential and parking, and there's no commercial. For example, next door, I think there's some shared parking. So I think we have an improvement in that situation. The property is immediately adjacent to the MBTA. And of course, what we see over time now, although with COVID, things have changed a bit, but I think they'll come back to somewhat normal in that people are going to be able to commute both north and south, also work from home. And historically, what we're finding is that buildings like this, 1 and 2 bedroom apartments, and it's about a 50-50 split, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom over 3 floors. Many people won't even have cars. A lot of people will rely on public transportation. It's on a bus route and right next to the MBTA. We, after being denied by the Board of Appeals, Peter regrouped and redrew his plan. We went to the planning board a month or so ago and were unanimously approved to return to the Board of Appeals. And here we are. I believe the planning board felt this was a much more workable solution for this property, and it seems to work in the sense that the parking is now 1-to-1. It's much more accessible. We have an increased amount of green space between the properties. The address right next door, I'm missing. It's to the immediately adjacent to the south. There's more green space than there was before, and the reason why this is a project that would do well here is that the rents are much more attractive than further north. You'll find if you go to Quincy, to Boston, of course, the rents are through the roof and people can't afford them. And Brockton is much more affordable, although this will be a luxury styled apartment building. Peter has experience in rental units, has quite a few units, and intends to build this to those specifications that would suit the needs of the new commuter type residents in the area. As you see, in downtown, the argument was a while back when we're putting in new apartment buildings, apartment units, there's no commercial space around. Well, that's beginning to change, and you're going to see that change in this area as well. Of course, you can walk to many locations in the Campello district from here, walk to the MBTA, and there's plenty of parking. The hardship is that we're in a C2 zone, and to develop a property which would be suitable for C2 use is really not viable in this area. We've had many conversations with the planning department, have gone through this project in various iterations, and we believe that we have the planning department's support in this project. Also, the fact that there was a home there that was burned to the ground, this hardship on the financial and otherwise, the property is of unique shape, size, soil conditions. There was, of course, a foundation in the property that had to be removed. So there's hardship all around in this situation, and especially because it's not suitable for C2 use. At one point, we had been talking with the MBTA. This is when we had 32 units. And I think if there ever was a parking need for additional parking space, that the fee would certainly be amenable to that. They were a little hesitant to get involved in any kind of concrete discussions because the project hadn't been approved. But I think that certainly is open, for future discussion. But I don't think it's needed because we certainly have sufficient parking. I think in general, the location is amenable to this type of use. It meets the variance standards of the shape, size, soil conditions, and topography, and the hardship. And I think at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Scott to discuss some of the details of the structure and the changes. Scott, are you there?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Attorney McCluskey. Good evening, folks. Just to expand on Attorney McCluskey's presentation, the biggest change, obviously, cutting off one entire floor of the building. But beyond that, the biggest change to the footprint was by eliminating the tandem parking that we had proposed to get the 8 additional parking spaces in the garage. We eliminated that structure. That is now giving us a much larger landscape buffer between our property and the property immediate to the south that Attorney McCluskey spoke about. 22 Hello. By doing that, we now have about 25 feet between our lot line and the side of the parking garage right now. Previously, it was about 5 feet. We now have 21% green space. 10 is required, but we have green space, whereas before we were, and within that landscaped area, we're proposing a fence for some buffering and also a row of arborvitae that will eventually grow quite tall and provide a good landscape buffer to the immediate surrounding property. That was one issue that was brought up at this meeting by the abutters, just the proximity of that face of the ground. So we really feel like we're taking care of that. All of the utilities are available inside where previously. We have a drainage system proposed that'll handle all the runoff from the roof. And as Attorney McCluskey said, the other item that we have is a delivery parking space that comes in off of Montello Street, again, right on that southern corner of the property. I think that's about it.
If everybody that's not speaking, then please put yourself on mute so you can not talk over the other person, or outside noises can't override someone's response, please.
We all set?
Sorry, was there a question there?
Negative attorney, we're just asking everybody to put their mics on mute if they're not speaking, because the noises and the ambient noises are overriding people's discussion.
Does that complete your presentation?
Scott, are you done?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay, I think that completes it, Mr. Chairman. Peter, do you have any comments? Peter Harrison?
Yes, no, I think this has been complete. I think this is a development that would work very well for the area because of the proximity to the train. The size has been reduced, and I think it would be beneficial to the area and to the city for the projected tax roll and so forth. So I'm hoping this is approved so that we can build.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to open it up for discussion from the board. Is there any comments or questions from the board? I have a question on the plan on the south side of the building where it says concrete walk. What is LSA under there?
Landscaped area, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, that's your green space.
Yes, sir.
So the original plan had cars parked out there.
Exactly.
Those cars would have been out in the atmosphere while the car behind it would have been in the garage.
That is correct. The tandem parking, we were calling it.
And that's when the attorney wanted to share the keys.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Please.
So
Don't remind me of that.
All right, any other questions from the board? Not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor?
Mr. Chair, I have one for opposition. There's no one raised their hand in favor.
Okay, so we have no one that's speaking in favor. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
Mr. Chair, there's one person. On mute.
Okay, one person on the screen.
That is correct.
Tell them to go ahead when they're ready.
Tony, you can unmute and go ahead. Go ahead, Tony. The only name Tony is unmuted, but he's not talking.
All right, keep trying them. Give them 30 seconds more. Can he hear you?
You can hear me through your microphone.
Tony, can you speak up? Unmute.
Okay, he's unmuted, but he's not able to be heard. His name is Anthony Moses from 1230 Montello Street. He says he opposes, this is too dense in this area, too tall.
Too dense and too tall.
That's correct.
What's the address for this one? 1208.
Oh, 1208, yes.
So 1230, he must be just about at Plain Street. Okay, no luck, but that's what he wanted to say.
He also said they could easily build a two-family or three-family. And and that would be in line with the neighborhood.
Okay. That's it for him?
Yes.
All right, is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? If not, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public officials that want to be heard on the issue?
None have risen their hand.
No public officials have come forward, so I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I am now going to open it up for deliberation by the board members. Board members.
Well, I think this plan fits in with the planning board's vision for the future of the area. And I think this is a good improvement. They took off a floor in 8 units to conform with parking requirements. I have no problem with this.
I think this is a much better plan than the one that they submitted before. It's much less dense, and it also opens up that area for some landscaping on the south side and keeps it away from that adjacent property. I have conversations with the MBTA on the possible use of their lot if it becomes necessary. And I'm sure they don't want to discuss anything unless there is a solid proposal that comes before them. They do have to realize that there is no on-street parking on Montello Street, none on Riverside Avenue, and on the small street next to the park, Garfield Street, the Traffic Commission created resident-only parking, I believe, over there several years ago because of the train issue. So on-street parking down here is going to be extremely limited, and the petitioners have to be fully aware that the parking that they are providing under this building is probably going to be it for that building. And there's no parking on Plain Street on either side. It's amazing. All those streets down there, there is no on-street parking. But this plan, I think, is much better than the one they brought before us the last time.
Yeah, I think discussions with the MBTA of using their lot for guests and so forth, that'll be very beneficial.
Well, this has been what the city has been looking for to encourage residential development in the area of the train stations.
Motion to
It is
grant?
what it is what it is. All right, we have a motion to grant. We have no stipulations with this.
I don't believe so.
I don't think we did either. I think we're in pretty good shape with this one.
I'll second that.
So a motion has been made and seconded to grant. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, that is 5 in the positive, 0 in the negative.
Thank you,
Yes.
members of the board.
That is 5 in the positive, 0 in the negative.
So the vote is 5 in the positive, none in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you.
Good luck, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, Peter.
Thank you. Much appreciated.
The next petition is 20-83, the petition of Frederick Hebsche, 110 Fairview Avenue, Brockton, Mass, for a variance from Article 3, Section 27.9 and 27.13A to combine 4 lots in order to create a subdivision consisting of 13 4-bedroom, single-family buildable lots in an R1C zone located at plots 4, 8, 18 Augusta Avenue, and plot 36 Prospect Street.
Good evening again, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Attorney John McCluskey representing Fred Hebsche. Bill Self is with us tonight. I can see Bill on the screen. Good evening, Bill. And so we'll be presenting to you a petition for a residential subdivision seeking relief from lot frontage, size, and depth. I believe that's all we're looking for here. Yeah, I think so. And this is historically, this is a piece of property that had a subdivision approval, I think dating back to the early to mid 60s prior to zoning. And in fact, I believe in the subdivision, the only house that was built was that of Fred and Estelle Hebsche, who lived at 100 Augusta Ave. For many years, have since sold that to Reverend Michael, who lives there. He's really at the very entrance of the subdivision at the present time. When the plan first came before me, there seemed to have been a movement afoot with the Board of Appeals which understood obviously that having a 30,000 square foot lot, 175 feet of frontage was difficult to do in a city where things, one, we're running out of space, and that type of a subdivision isn't typical anymore. I came before this board several months ago, maybe a year ago, on a two parcel piece of property over on the east side, and we worked it out after 2 hearings in the back to the planning board. And we tried to fashion this plan somewhat in similar taking to what the board approved before. And I understand every case is different. I'm not saying that you need to do the same thing that you did in that, but we took some guidance from the board and went back and redrew the plan, which I believe had many, many more lots. The frontage was about 100 or less feet on the existing old subdivision plan. And we came up with a plan for these 13 residential lots. One of the lots right in the mid, smack dab in the middle of the subdivision, it looks like a buildable lot, is in fact the drainage lot. There's a drainage easement that runs through here, and Bill Self can talk more about those details. However, we now have a subdivision before you, which has mostly, primarily 125 feet of frontage and more. And I'd have to say, and I haven't done the average, I would say that the average is far more than 125 feet of frontage. There is one lot immediately adjacent to where Mr. and Mrs. Hebsche lived, and that was created back, I believe, in the early 60s, mid 60s. That only has 100 feet of frontage. However, it has more than sufficient square footage. Bear with me for a minute. It has 20,545 square feet of land. So it's a deep lot and has 100 feet of frontage. All of the other lots have just about or more than 125 feet, but clearly that's the standard here, and we have sufficient frontage, I think, to satisfy the board. We had a neighborhood meeting where we vetted many of the issues. We've gone to the planning board, which, although we have to go back and work out some of the details, they felt this was sufficient enough to move to the Zoning Board of Appeals for consideration of the variance requested. Variance is requested. I will say that the hardship here is that, one, you have the shape of the land, and it's a long, more narrow parcel of land, which, as you know, you have to put a roadway in, and roadway is a very expensive proposition these days. So in order to do that, we ended up with the number of lots that we have, because to do it, first of all, we're not we're not going to make the lots any deeper, I don't think, and be able to come up with a viable plan. So the balance here is that we balance the cost of the roadway versus the frontage and the size of the lots. Lots ranging from 20,000 and change, 26,000 and change to 13, 12,000, 14, 15,000. So all of the lots are good size. And I think we've taken into consideration all of the concerns of the neighbors. We have talked to many of them. The Reverend Reverend Michael, who lives at 100 Augusta Ave, we were able to, his situation was very unusual. He actually purchased his lot, and the driveway was on a parcel of land that was still owned by Mr. Hebshe. And we've recently reconfigured that to give the Reverend more than the frontage he needs and the parking area that he needs. If you've driven down there, you probably saw a couple of buses, and those buses are the Reverend's buses. He has a church here in Brockton and does some wonderful things with his religious community and travels across the country. But he parks those buses on that street for the sole and particular reason of preventing people from coming into that property, because if you go past 100 Augusta Ave, leaving it on your left, what he's found is that people come in and they do all sorts of things that you wouldn't want to even think about doing, including dumping, garbage and drugs and various other things. And he welcomes the community. I don't know if he's here tonight, but hopefully he would speak in favor of this. But he did tell me that he wants to see a development come in here, and he wants to see, he doesn't want to be the only one in there anymore, because it's a little lonely back there, and it's not very good and safe for his family. So in general, I think I've touched upon the hardship of the shape of the lot, the shape of the parcel, road construction, cost of road construction, and ultimately what we'd end up with. And I would like to actually comment. I was a little surprised. My client, Mr. Hebshe, received a letter, even though I was the person named as the correspondence person to touch base with, which came from the building department, outlining that his application to the Board of Appeals had some deficiencies and could affect his title. And I find that a letter like this has a chilling effect on any applicant who doesn't have counsel. I think that the things that were outlined in the letter by the building department were clearly under the purview of the zoning board and really shouldn't have been interfered with in this hearing process, especially where the applicant has counsel. In any event, the things that were pointed out in that letter are diametrically opposed to what the board has done historically, even months ago in the Curtin Farm estate situation. Be that as it may, I think we've addressed many of the issues, including this property as being an attractive nuisance to people coming in and abusing the property. So with that, I turn it over to Bill, who has his plans for you, and welcome any questions and comments.
Thank you, John. Good evening to the board. My name is Bill Self with Curley and Hanson, surveyors in Avon. We did the subdivision. And as John was saying, we did have a neighborhood meeting. Some of the issues that the neighbors came up with, we've already attempted to address, especially on one end of the property. As far as the lots, we have tried to accomplish, as John had said, with obtaining the minimum of 125 feet. As far as on the lots, we try to maintain best we could the lot depth, lot width regulations because of a couple of the configurations. We're again maintaining that 125 for frontage, and a couple of them were shy on that. We've put a list together and submitted those with the plans. Two of the main lots, the two lots that we did not accomplish having the 125 feet minimum frontage that we were trying to shoot for was certainly the one lot 15, which is right next to number 100, the lot that was sold off. Excuse me. And that was basically the original lot that was created, on the 1965 subdivision plan. We had no opportunity to change. You can see where the existing house on the second 1965 lot, number 100, it just didn't leave us any room to try to, at least add to the frontage on that. It does have 20,545 feet, but it was one of the existing lots on that subdivision. The second one, if you look at lot 3, and that is the second lot that we weren't able to accomplish the 125. But if you can see the odd configuration of that lot, that was actually created again by the 1965 plan, where Augusta Ave, which was constructed or proposed back in the, I believe it was the mid-20s, for drainage and sewer easements. But it also had intended to show the Cross Ave, it being extended, and easements were granted to the city, over that section. So we've basically maintained that section. We tweaked a little bit to make it a little bit more symmetrical, creating the intersection to be, opposite each other. And that, again, was how the lot 3 was created. And we didn't have any other area available to add to it. One of the proposals on, excuse me, on here also is, if you look at lot 4, that's basically, we've got it labeled as not a buildable lot. That would be for just drainage purposes only. Excuse me. Most of your water runoff coming from the extension of Cross Ave up to the cul-de-sac, you can see that all of that water, elevation wise and grade wise, is going from the cul-de-sac down towards the intersection of Augusta and Cross Ave. And that's the purpose of that one lot, just maintained for drainage, to be able to accept that. And it's not a buildable lot. The second, one of the most important, we thought was, excuse me, was that if you look on the plan, you can see where Augusta Ave down there, Caseri Court, Angela Terrace. It's a public way up until the end of Angela Terrace. And from that portion out to Prospect Street, it is a private street now. Where you see the intersection of Cross Ave and Augusta, it's actually dead-ended there. There's a physical turn pavement there on this, stopping it. And our intentions, if you look at basically the other sheets in your packet, you can see that we do not want to continue that through. We're trying to keep the traffic flow through the smaller part of that subdivision, which is Caseri Court, Augusta Ave, and Angela Terrace. So I think if you're looking at plans, I think if we looked at the other series of plans, 5A, 5B, 5C, I think the 20 scale will give you more detail with these lots I'm talking about. It also shows the grading, the dead end area, or the stopping where Augusta Ave would extend. Right now, Cross Ave is paved, but there's a guardrail that heads out towards Cross Street. I'm being told that that was constructed to keep the traffic coming through. Also, it became a dumping area. We noticed that during our survey portion. Our intentions are to open Cross Ave, and we did have just a notation from the deputy chief. We asked him to take a look, and through his recommendation, when we submitted to the planning board, he had a couple items that we addressed, adding a couple, adding a hydrant or so. We highlighted where they were existing. So you have a hydrant at Cross Ave where that guardrail is at the just 100 or 80 feet away from Augusta Ave, the paper street. And you've got another hydrant down at the entrance at Prospect Street. And we added 2 more hydrants in the subdivision. And but most important, I think one of his comments were that we clearly understood and we agree with as far as the design standard, that Cross Ave would not be, that barrier would stay up during all of the construction phasing of the street and that subdivision. Once the houses were starting to be sold and occupied, it would be at that time that the guardrail could be taken down and the street improvements would be completed and allow that to give that circulation coming from Cross Street down. And then that also allows the Cross Ave extension and Augusta Ave to be able to come out Cross Ave and onto Cross Street and head more towards the northerly and northeasterly direction, where the other traffic would go basically out Augusta Ave, out to Prospect Street, and then heading out down towards down Prospect Street towards Pleasant Street and Route 24. So that's one of the flow patterns we were trying to accomplish. As far as the concerns, I think most of the neighbors had, if the board could look at sheet, I believe it'd be sheet number 5D in your packet. Excuse me. Most of the design of this subdivision, as well as the existing conditions of the topography, is coming from the west, coming down west to east. And if you see on lots, the cul-de-sac would be installed with lots on the westerly side of it, and the roadway itself would actually add as a breaker for that existing conditions flow coming through. So that water would be basically handled by the roadway construction, depositing it into the detention area down at the corner on lot 4. But the main concern that we saw from the neighbors were certainly, any water coming off that subdivision that we're creating onto their properties. Now, we know the water goes there already. So with a combination of the street intercepting some, we've also installed a 30-foot wide drainage easement down along the backs of their properties on Augusta, and also, to the back of the new lots coming up in Cross Ave extension. Now that swale is just an earthen swale, grassed. It'll be more of a landscape area. It's designed to go ahead and pick up flow and deposit it back down towards the drainage that's existing now down on Augusta Ave. There's a drain manhole, again, that cross-country drain line that's existing in the existing Augusta Ave. And that would handle that surface runoff and accomplish what we're trying to do with no adverse conditions of water being put on those other properties. The other concerns that they also had were that you know, it's not what you would call a nice native area. You know, it's not, the trees, it's over the years since the 60s. It's been used, it's been beat up, some, you know, piles of, you know, material out on the backside. But as far as the development, we'll be taking, you know, pretty much most of the trees in that area. But what they're requested by at least one was that he'd like to see, you know, screening, which would, and we've agreed that it would be best to be able to fence that property line all the way down in the back. So we'd be installing a fence around the backs of lot 7, lot 6, and lot 5. And again, after lot 5, this would remain natural from the end of Angela Terrace, that the pavement stops now. It would remain natural from there out to the new Cross Ave intersection. So that's one of the two of the mechanisms that we're trying to accomplish to try to appease some of the concerns for those particular neighbors.
Bill, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
On that fencing you just talked about, you're talking a 6-foot stockade fence?
Yes, sir.
And that would be on the property line, not at the depression for the swale?
Yeah, it would be installed, you know, probably a couple of feet in off, you know, onto the lots themselves, on lot 7, 6, and 5, just for maintenance.
The swale will stay on the development side.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And it maintained by basically, it's a lot like we designed up on Linwood Street. Same principle, the water flow coming across all of that land from, you know, in this particular case, east to west. But it's an interceptor is what it is. But it's only, you know, it's going to be loomed and seeded. It's going to get infiltration. But again, it prevents that heavy rainstorm event where they may or may not get a flooding towards the rear yards of the existing homes. One of the comments from the planning board on our preliminary was just the one thing that they did want to see when we went back was on lot 7, we would propose a 30-foot easement in there with just a gravel process driveway. So that would always leave access for anyone to come down if there should be any maintenance, you know, on the back of 7, 6, and then in 5. There's a roadway that will be constructed for maintenance around lot 4, as you see on the plan, and that again is for the same purpose. It served for the maintenance of the detention area. So our access, really the only structure that we'd have maintenance factors on would really be just the catch basin out at the end of behind lot 5, and again that would be accessed by that proposed roadway, 10-foot roadway around the detention area. You know.
Okay, very good. Is there anything else you want to bring us up to speed on?
The only John touched bases on it was that after the fact on lot 13 that the minister came and asked if he could just have a little bit more for that driveway. So that addendum plan that we had submitted with the filing, if you look at the addendum plan, that addresses the change.
Yeah. I see it on the plan.
And basically, the only change we made is we made lot 14, which is one of the lots that is not a buildable lot. That lot 14 was designed to be conveyed and combined with the house of the lot where the existing house is. And it was basically, we picked it out a little bit to maintain the driveway area that was actually under overgrowth. That we didn't want that far, to be honest with you. So we tweaked that line a little bit. We still maintain the frontage around, even though under the regulations, zoning regulations, you have frontage on a corner lot, which this technically is. Your frontage has to be measured on one street halfway around the curve, and the other would be coming off of Cross Ave. But total, you'll see on the plan, it's 125 feet in width at the bottom, using both of those. So as far as the lot width, lot depth, we can maintain the 125 from halfway back, but in the front, you can see because of the jog, it's only 116 feet wide. So that would be under one of the variances we'd ask for, one of the reliefs.
Very good. Is that it for your presentation? What happened?
You asking me?
Yes. Are you done with your presentation?
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Yes.
Okay.
And here too, thank you.
All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and I'm going to open it up to the board for any questions that they may have of the petitioner. Board members, any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. So I guess this would be for Bill. Bill, looking at this plan, it looks like 12 out of the 13 houses are going to be identical, and that's the plan that I have here.
Well, they're designed to be basically colonials, 2-car garages. As far as, you know, we don't have a contractor that's buying the property. You know, again, Fred is just trying to get an approved subdivision, put it out there in the market, but our intentions are to install, you know, what seems to be the popular house in Brockton nowadays is, you know, 4-bedroom colonials, 2-car garages.
The only exception I see is the house on lot 3 does not have a garage.
And that's because you can see the configuration, Chief. You can see where we're limited to just basically given what we call the old colonial style. It'd be sidewalk. It's the smallest lot that we have in there as far as, you know, area to work, even though it's 14,000 square feet. But that was by circumstance.
Okay, and my last question, could you just explain to me what lot 4 is going to look like?
Lot 4 will be, it will be much like if you've been up on Nadia's Way. It's a detention area, but it's loomed and seeded. It will be maintained. It's an area that does not hold water for any length of time after a main storm. It drains empty. It's a detention rather opposed to a retention.
All right, so
but it has enough capacity.
Is there a depression there?
I'm sorry?
A depression? Is it like a hole?
Yeah, what it'll be if you looked at sheet 5D, you can see the edge of it here. You can see that it's high up all the way around it, including the street side, and then you can see it drops down to a 3-to-1, 4-to-1 slope. And that'll all be grassed, mowed, and maintained. So it's landscaping wise, it's not going to be the pool that doesn't get maintained.
Just to be curious, who's going to maintain that lot?
Well, it'll be part of whatever association. I know that the city has said that they pretty much they don't want to accept any streets, or most importantly the maintenance of both repair and or things like the drainage areas. And again, much like we did on Linwood Street. So it would be an association set up by each homeowner, and they'd be responsible for maintenance and care.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all I had.
Anybody else got any comments, questions? So, are all the utilities currently in on Augusta Avenue Extension and Cross Avenue?
Yeah, if you look at I think it's 5A, 5B, as well as 5D, most that you see, you have water, you have drainage, you have sewer. That's all presently been installed on Augusta Ave and continues down through, which ties into the Augusta Ave public side. Again, Augusta Ave back in the 20s, that's when all that was built.
Okay, so my question is, there is currently a water main that's on Augusta Avenue extension that extends from Prospect Street all the way to Angela Terrace.
That's correct. If it's shown in
Okay.
5C.
And the Cross Avenue water main comes down and ties in, I would presume, to that also.
That's correct.
That's in place.
Yes.
Now, we have drainage already in on Augusta Avenue extension from Prospect Street all the way up to the current cul-de-sac. Or
I'm
does
sorry?
that drainage go all the way to Augusta Avenue and Angela Terrace?
There's a drain line. Yeah, I'm sorry, the chief, the flow from Angela, Caseri, that all goes from north to south. So it's handled through this trunk line, comes all the way
Okay,
down
so-
to Prospect.
All right, so water, what about sewerage? Is that in there also?
The same.
Okay, so basically when we're talking about utilities, water, sewerage, and drainage is all in on Augusta Avenue extension and Cross Avenue.
That's
The only
correct.
new installation is the new piece of Cross Avenue that goes into the new cul-de-sac. That has to be developed with new utilities.
That's correct.
Okay,
There'll be some adjustment of the structures, but it is all existing now.
and what are you gonna do to shut off Augusta Avenue extension from the new, or from Cross Avenue to Angela Terrace? What was the agreement on that? Is that gonna
Well,
be
if-
vegetated, or what happens there?
Yeah, if you looked at sheet 5C, you can see that it'll be a sidewalk with just an opening for a 10-foot maintenance road that goes around the detention area. So from Cross Ave extension, Augusta Ave, from that point out to Angela will remain basically wooded. That'll be, it'll be left in a natural state.
Okay, so where we see a street laid out and the word private, that street is not gonna be there.
Correct. It's existing now, but it will not be developed.
That's a paper street right there,
Well,
but it will
yes,
not be developed.
that's correct. Yep.
Because I think the feeling of the public up there is they do not want that street to be opened up.
That's correct. And we agree 100%. That's why our design, showed that would not be, connected.
Okay. And the other change you're showing is on the new cul-de-sac at the end of Cross Avenue, there's going to be an access way to get into the swale to clean it out.
Up at the top of the hill, up at the top of lot 7, yes.
Yeah, from the cul-de-sac, correct.
Yep.
Okay, now, one other comment that I want to make before I open it up for public discussion is several years ago, in fact, let me get the exact date here. On July 8th, 2014, Mr. Hebsche came before us for that lot which you're now calling Plot 4, which is just south of the existing dwelling. He requested that to.
Lot, you mean lot 15? I think it's
Lot 15,
4.
yeah, right.
Yes,
Lot
sir.
15. He came before us requesting that to be developed, and it was denied, and it had merged with his house, which is number 100. So that lot 15 and the house are together as one lot. And we have here a ruling from the law department that it says that that parcel was merged with other property in the latest deed from John Creedon to Fred Hebsche. So that lot doesn't exist. That lot 15 is part and parcel to number 100.
Mr. Chairman, I was in the audience at that hearing, and I felt bad for Mr. Hebsche at the time. He was poorly prepared.
Correct.
And didn't understand the nuances of the law. I believe that lot is separately assessed. And I think that under 2712, had he had proper representation, it may be that that would have had a different outcome. But be that as it may, I understand that the board made a decision. We're simply saying that's still separately assessed. I think it is. Bill, are you correct?
Yeah, and there's separate deeds for each parcel. for what you see is plot 4. There's a separate deed for the house lot. And then the rest of from the house lot, what used to be, if you had the old plan, looked at the old plan, all of the rest of the property where the cul-de-sac's being proposed is the last one lot.
Yeah, so that lot, I truly believe should be a grandfathered lot under 2712. And again, even, so let's say if we take your position, and I'm not trying to be argumentative here, but if you say that was merged, well, the city still hasn't recognized that. They still tax it as I think a buildable lot.
That's correct.
And so they pay no attention to the decisions of the Board of Appeals. So they continued, that'd give us even more reason for hardship on that, because they just continue to treat it as a buildable lot and tax it as a buildable lot. And I think under 2712, there's a decent argument that it was a buildable lot and still is.
Well, I'm only going by the decision of the board and the decision from the law department. So I just want to bring that to your attention. So that would be lot 15. Okay, and you mentioned about the barrier at Cross Avenue to be removed. In the public hearings that you had with that, was that something that was discussed? How did that get handled?
Well, yeah, it was brought up by the neighbors. And, what our approach was for design standard was that we really don't think it's going to have that same impact that I think when it was first built, there was no houses up there. And it was just a cut through I'm being told by the neighbors.
It was a dumping ground up there. I remember it vividly. That came before us on the Traffic Commission, and
Right.
the Traffic Commission is the one who put the barrier up there
Yeah, I remember
because
that.
of the illicit activities that were going on and the dumping that was going on up there. So that was done because of that problem, as it existed as a dead-end road. So if this is developed, it's a whole different ballgame.
Well, our design, what we feel is that, again, once you have these houses that are developed, you have residents, it's going to be a living community. I think you're going to have stop signs at the intersection here coming in from Cross onto Augusta Ave, across Ave into Augusta.
I understand what you're saying. There's a strong feeling that if it opened up, that problem that persisted up there as a dead end is going to go away. So I was just curious to see what the flavor was. It sounds like it's going to be closed during construction, and then there'll probably be a petition to the Traffic Commission to remove that to open it up.
Yes, sir.
Probably what's going to happen.
Yes, sir.
All right. The other thing that I have a question on is when you look at lot number 5, proposed dwelling, lot number 5, my concern with that lot is that house sits right at the precipice of that swale. If you step out the back door of that house, you're down in the swale.
Yeah, and we, again, these are what we call a build out worst case scenario. Our option on say lot 5 would be to possibly turn that house, put a colonial in, and still have and maybe have an attached garage that way, make it a little bit more buildable. As far as,
All right, so then what you're proposing tonight in these plans is what probably could be developed on these lots. When they are constructed, could be built anywhere within the building setback line.
Yes, sir.
So even though you're showing a good distance between these houses on this plan, that might not be the position when the lot is built.
Well, and I
correct?
agree. Yes.
Okay.
I agree. Yep.
And the other thing that I want to make very clear is that we were getting inundated with requests for 4-bedroom colonials on very substandard lots. And the zoning says no lot shall be less than 125 feet. And I think that's from 100 feet back from the setback. But the point here is the 125 feet that is the minimum size lot certainly is not taking the place of the 180-foot frontage. I
Correct.
do not want people to think that because the minimum lot size is no smaller than 125, that that's the new normal. It's not the new normal. So I just want to make sure everybody understands that. Any other questions from the board? No questions, no comments? All right, I'm going to open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
Everyone's hands raised.
Nobody? Okay, seeing nobody is requesting to speak in favor, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and now I will open it up for anyone that may wants to speak in opposition.
I see no one with their raised hand.
Okay, nobody has come forward to speak in opposition. I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public official who wants to be heard on the issue?
Good, excuse me. This is Denise Cahill. I was raising my hand.
Okay, hold on just a minute. Denise Cahill.
She must be raising her hand.
All right, hold on just a minute, Denise.
Thank you.
We've got to get you up on the screen here.
It's here, but she's not, the video's not on.
Her video is not on?
Correct.
Denise, your video is not on.
That is correct. I prefer not to show my face.
Oh, okay, all right, so we can hear you. So what, you want to speak in opposition, is that it?
Yes, well, I have a couple of questions.
All right, first of all, identify who you are and where you live.
Yes, Denise Cahill. I live at 148 Augusta Ave Extension. The back of my lot abuts lot 6 and 7 of the new cul-de-sac area.
Okay.
And I
All right,
appreciate,
go ahead.
yeah, I appreciate all the time that everybody's taking on this. I was reading right in the city's website today that for the residential 1C requirements for the zoning. And I read that it requires a minimum of 30,000 square feet per lot, right? And there is not one of these lots that meets that requirements. And you've been talking this evening saying that 125 feet frontage is required, but I read that in the bylaws, excuse me if I'm not using the right terminology, that there requires a minimum of 175 feet. So,
Right, 175 foot frontage, 30,000 square feet, correct.
right,
Those
okay,
are for new lots that are being developed.
okay, so are these not new lots being developed?
Yes, they are.
So how do we get away, how are they getting away with 125 feet of frontage versus 175?
Because they are asking for a variance.
Okay, and that's the same for the 30,000 square feet also, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I think that they've done a fabulous job on this, but I just think that the lot should be a little larger for what they're trying to build on them. Thank you.
Okay, is that it?
Yes, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that wants to speak in opposition? None?
None is raising their Zoom hands, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there any public officials that want to be heard on this issue?
There are no public officials raising their Zoom hands.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up now for discussion from the board. Board members, your thoughts?
I think I've seen this plan before in different iterations, and this is a big improvement over what the original one I saw. And I know the engineering that goes into providing for rainwater and water detention. I have no problem with this project.
Okay,
I
any other board?
find it to be a pretty impressive plan. Looking forward to be developed.
Okay, I just have a couple of comments, and number one, I am very concerned with the lot sizes on the new Cross Avenue that goes into the new cul-de-sac. I'm specifically referring to lot 12, 11, 10, and 9. I am concerned that those lots are very small. They're only 100 feet deep and 125 foot of frontage. I think that's a very tight fit for a colonial style house, and in particular where we have no control over where the house is going to sit within the building block. I'm disappointed that lot 4 becomes the lot where all the water is going to end up. I think driving into this development, that is going to be something that is going to look like a swamp area, but I realize that there has to be drainage somewhere, but that's a little bit disappointing. My other concern is lot 5 and lot 6. Lot 5 right now is sitting right on the edge of the precipice for the retention basin. Lot 5 has absolutely no backyard whatsoever. I'm just concerned that lot 4 could be reduced in size to give lot 5 more area so that that lot becomes a viable lot. That's a little tiny lot with absolutely no backyard to it at all. And as far as a hardship here on the cost of putting in utilities, virtually all the utilities are in here. The only utilities that have to go in is on the new Cross Avenue. So I really think this area needs to be developed. I think it's going to be a great project when it gets developed. The mess that's up there on Cross Avenue and Augusta Avenue will get cleared up. I was up there the other day and I walked right into a nefarious incident that was going on, and I wanted to get out of there as quick as I could. So it's not a good situation the way it is right now. Lot 15, I am of the impression that that is not a buildable lot. So my concern is, without a lot of extra work here, I am of the opinion that lot 5 and 6 can be redesigned, perhaps with some encroachment on lot 4, and lots 12, 11, 10, and 9, instead of 4 houses up in the back, maybe 3 houses would fit up there very nicely, particularly where there's only 100 feet of depth to those lots. So that's my concerns. As I said, I personally would like to see this developed. I think it's long overdue, but some of these lots are very small. We're looking at 12,000 square foot lots for 4-bedroom colonials, and I have real concern about that. So that's my comments. Any other board members have any comments?
Motion to grant?
So your motion is to grant with the plans that are before us tonight?
Yes.
I'll second.
Correct? Okay. Okay, a motion has been made, seconded to layout. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
Yes.
Mr. Bernard,
Yes.
Mr. Pina,
Yes.
Chief Williams,
Yes.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that is a 4-1 in the affirmative.
4 in the positive, 1 in the negative. The petition is granted.
Thank you, members of the board, Mr. Chairman, and appreciate everything and all of your input.
Yes, I agree. Thank you very much.
last.
So now the decision on the buildable lot situation, you're gonna have to deal with that.
So one last case.
Mr. Chair, are we through for the evening?
No, we still got one more.
Oh,
Hold on. This is the one that the petitioner was not ready and we held it off till the end of the evening.
Nilsson?
That's the one.
All right.
All right. Let's see, we're gonna delay. Here we go, right here. Okay, the last petition of the evening is 20-78. The petitioner Daniel Pino, 57 Nilsson Street, Brockton, Mass, to erect a garage, 21.5 feet wide, 30 feet deep, and 30 feet high for storage that does not meet the 10-foot setbacks in an R3 zone located at 57 Nilsson Street. Is the petitioner ready?
Hi, Chairman, members of the board. My name is Frank Pino. I'll be speaking on behalf of Daniel Pino. And we're trying to see what can be done about a garage that he was proposing to get a variance for his property on Nilsson Street, where he owns and occupies. He lives there now. So it was drawn up by the land surveyor and the civil engineer, and I was doing all the paperwork and submitting for him. And I guess he was under the impression that he was allowed the 5 feet from the rear and from the side, the 10-foot clearance. The deck that is there that is in question was going to be removed anyway, which would allow for the 10 feet. But the reasoning for building the garage is for his own personal storage, knowing that he is now moving from where he was residing in Waltham to Brockton, and to be able to fit his commercial vehicles or his pickup trucks really in the garage. We're requesting a little bit more than what is allowed here with the 30% of the one floor in the principal building. That just kind of leaves it a little shy of the size that would be worth it to him. So we're just trying to figure out what would be allowed. That way he can move fully to Brockton.
Okay, so you know that you are requesting a variance because this does not fit within that zone. So when you request a variance, you need to demonstrate to the board a hardship. What is so unique about this location that's different than any other location?
That is a good question, one that I don't necessarily have a good answer for because I didn't understand the definition of hardship. If by saying hardship, it would be the need for the space because of a family member that needed to occupy the space where he had his belongings in. And since he's moving there anyway, it was more or less reason for him to request something that was a little larger than what is allowed.
Is he requesting to live in this building?
To live in, no, it's just the accessory garage just for storage. He's living there in the
house.
Yes.
Now, did I hear you say they're going to store trucks at this location also?
He owns 2 pickup trucks. So it was kind of, the idea was because he was plowing and doing a lot of the construction work for our family business, that he would request a garage that was able to fit his equipment, because there's no space for him to store them in Waltham anymore.
So this is kind of for a business use also, not just for storage of a car or a truck. You're
Food business. He just doesn't own vehicles that are not trucks. He just owns two trucks. That's really what it is.
okay, is that it for your presentation?
Yeah, the only other bit of storage that would be provided would be for the, potential tenants that would be in the principal building, but that's about it. It's complete.
Okay, very good. I'm going to open up the questions from the board. Any board members have any questions?
I had a couple, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
First of all, I'm sorry, I missed it at the beginning. Is Daniel your brother?
Daniel's my first cousin.
Cousin, okay. All right, and you're just acting on his behalf tonight?
Yes, sir.
Can you see me on the screen? This picture, is this what currently exists in Waltham?
No, that is a picture of property that is in Brockton also, and was just an example of what he was looking to achieve.
I got you. And I'm sorry, your first name, sir?
Frank.
Frank, okay. I normally don't like to be critical, but this is one of the most unattractive buildings I've ever seen in a residential neighborhood.
Duly noted.
With all due respect, I mean, I don't know why you need 3 stories in a garage, but it should have an A-frame roof. And that's just the way garages should look. I looked at the property the other day, and that corner of his property just looks very small. And again, I don't mean to insult you, but this garage, is this computer generated?
Not insulted at all. No, it was an example of what could be there without the 3 or 4 degree pitch roof. It just went with a flat roof to give an example for you.
I don't know what your opinion is or the other board members are, but for me, that's not really an attractive addition to somebody's property. Maybe your brother or yourself could rework this. I think it's just, and I know we're not deliberating right now, but just want to make a comment. I'm not sure he has the space on his property to do a project like this.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, I got that. Yeah, and I'm totally aware of its unattractive, as far as what it looks like on paper, but it was more of a sort of an example for you to work off of.
I got it. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board members? Comments? Nothing? All right, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, open it up for public discussion. Is there anyone here that wants to speak in favor?
I don't see any, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. Is there anyone that wants to speak in opposition?
I do not see any, Mr. Chair.
Nobody in opposition. Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing. I'm going to open it up for any elected official that may want to speak on the issue.
I do not see any, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I'm going to close that portion of the hearing, and I will now open it up for deliberation by the board members.
I understand what he's trying to do, but it seems like introducing a commercial use in a residential area as well as putting a building that's just way too big for the area in there. That's just a couple of problems I have with this.
Any other comments from board members? This building is way too big for that piece of property. And he certainly did not demonstrate any hardship whatsoever for granting this. And I get the flavor that we may be having commercial vehicles in this building. And I can't understand why we would need a building of this size for storage on floor 2 and floor 3. So no hardship was shown. Anybody want to make a motion?
Motion grant in hopes that it does not prevail.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded to grant with the hopes that it does not prevail. Clerk will please call the roll.
Mr. Lanus,
No.
Mr. Bernard,
No,
Mr. Pina,
No.
Chief Williams,
No.
Chairman Galligan.
No.
Mr. Chair, that's 0 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative.
Okay, the vote is 0 in favor, 5 in the negative. The petition is denied.
Thank you, Chairman, members of the board.
Sorry,
Thank
guys.
you.
Good luck. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
That concludes everything, right? That concludes our hearings tonight, guys.
thank you.
So I will wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. And we'll see you before Christmas.
All right, be safe.
And happy Veterans Day to everyone also.
That's right. It's
Happy
tomorrow.
Veterans Day.
My
Thank you.
birthday tomorrow.
Happy birthday, Chair.
Happy birthday.